is to inform baseball players that physical activity is nothing to be scared of, that a little bit of running can be fun.
Now, Rebecca, this obesity problem is nothing new.
Well, right, there is a culture of obesity in baseball that has been around for years. I mean, coaches even sub in healthy pinch runners instead of encouraging their overweight players to hustle, depriving them of the only cardiovascular exercise they might have a chance to get.
And a lot of these athletes have been playing baseball since they were kids.
Well, right, so they might have never learned any healthy habits.
Baseball is fine in moderation, but many of these men spend over 200 days a year playing it, and that adds up.
The program encourages players once an hour to take a 15-minute break from baseball to do something active, like go up and down some stairs, go for a walk, or play some basketball.
All right, well, thanks, Rebecca. If you're a baseball coach and you're worried about your players' health, go to takethefield.gov for a list of healthy activities and nutritious snacks. Coming up next, does America brains get worse hearing words correct?
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live. Welcome back to the program. We weren't expecting to be in this studio tonight.
I was actually looking forward to making my triumphant first appearance from Studio 2.
From the Amdusius
Yes.
studios.
But no.
I'm going to try my hardest to fill in for Lee and sound like a philosopher.
All right, excellent.
I'm just going to be me and complete the trifecta, right? That would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here on Free Talk Live.
The big nights.
That's right.
Those are good.
We've done like 10 days in a row.
That's true. Bonnie and I are both troopers in that respect, so.
You mean the right after the raid?
Yeah.
I don't know if I did 10 whole days, but you did.
Well, welcome back. We're here live.
I think I did
Sunday.
13 days or something like
Wow.
that. Yeah.
It's the Sunday edition. 202-380-3699 is the number that allows you to get involved with the show. You can bring up whatever you want to discuss. You know, I'm getting to the point where I'm tired almost of talking about the police and the continuous abuse and the violence. We covered the cops attacking teenagers physically for vaping last night on the show. Coming up, Captain, you've got a guy run over by the cops. He called them. And then they ran him over.
Yeah, how much does it suck that, you know, you get... This particular guy got shot in the shoulder.
Not by a cop,
Not by
somebody
a cop.
else.
Yeah, it was some other thing happened, and he got shot. He's laying in the street, and so he calls 911 because he needs help. And then the cops arrive just in time to run him over with their patrol car.
Yeah, we can
Did they kill him?
He died.
Yeah, we'll tell you more about that one if we get the chance. Of course, the number again, 202-380-3699. Also, I want to talk about something that affects a lot of people on the planet. Not just those in the United States, although it does primarily affect people in the United States. And this one I've actually been holding on to for a few days.
Are you sandbagging?
It is the story about the Federal Reserve.
Who are you talking to?
Anyone that has the dollar.
No, you didn't introduce us.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
It's the captain.
So yes, that's good. But I'm actually talking to the listener here because that's mostly who's out there. You guys are always here. But welcome to the program. You can bring up anything that you want. The story here from CNBC: the Federal Reserve has moved up their timeline for rate hikes as inflation rises.
I just want to remind everybody who isn't familiar with the Federal Reserve, neither federal nor do they have any reserves.
That's a good point. Yeah, a lot of people seem to think there's gold in that their Federal Reserve, and I don't think there's really any evidence for that.
There's two things in there, Jack and squat.
And you're being nice. The Federal Reserve considerably raised its expectations for inflation this year and brought forward the time frame on when it will next raise interest rates. Now, I'm not interested in their interest rate numbers. I don't care about all that. That's meaningless to me. But the fact that they're admitting that inflation is coming is what's, I think, newsworthy in this story.
It's already here, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah, that's the thing, is, you know, these guys are... The media is sort of complicit in this, where the government, the media, they have a definition of inflation that is this thing that is the prices are going to go up. That is, to them, inflation. When we know that inflation, the actual definition, is an increase in the money supply. And They do that all the time. I mean, so the government is constantly increasing the money supply via the Federal Reserve.
I was going to say, my entire life has been inflation. I've experienced it. I'm 49 years old. I remember a time as a teenager when Mazda would advertise a small pickup for $5,795.
This would have been in the 80s,
Wow.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now a small pickup, we just heard about one on Free Talk Live that's $20,000. Right.
Oh, that's cheap.
And that's a budget model.
Yeah.
You know,
You typically, you put some features in there, you're into the 40,000,
40,
50,000.
50 easy for a small pickup. Go look at like a new Toyota Tacoma, see how much that costs brand new.
Wow.
And you'll be in for sticker shock for sure.
So, though the Fed raised its headline inflation expectation to 3.4%, a full percentage point higher than their March projection, the post-meeting statement stood by its position that inflation pressures are, quote, transitory. What does that mean?
That means that it would go up for a while, then eventually even out or something, but it's probably not transitory. It will just continue going up.
Yeah, it's just a straight-up lie. I mean, look, we're not going to see deflation.
Nope.
That's not on the horizon at all.
It's not an inherent part of the way the U.S. dollar is structured as a currency. It's not backed by anything. So the only place that it can go is up, particularly since they have taken away the reserve requirement from the banks.
Well, now, in theory, that's true. They did that earlier. Was it last year, I think it was?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was last year. Near the beginning of the whole COVID thing, they were just like, well, we'll just get rid of this reserve requirement, which is only like a tenth anyway.
10%, yeah.
So, I mean, it was almost, unremarkable in any way, shape, or form. Now it's gone.
Now it's totally unremarkable.
But 3.4%, remember, the government's numbers are always manipulated. So when the federal government says, oh, inflation's only going to be 2%, 3.4%, now it's up from what they said. It was going to be 2.4%. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant increase on its own, right? Now that's almost, 40% or something like that, increase above what they were saying. But the reality of it is you're probably talking about the inflation's really in the double digits. And that's just a safe estimate, because what they do is they take certain they've got, what is it called, this consumer price index or something like that. There's a certain index where they factor in very politically selected industries, very politically selected prices of items into what they consider the inflation rate. Right. And they just leave out entire categories of things that a lot of us would consider to be important. And I don't have that list of things. It'd be interesting to pull it up because, to see what they leave out and what they include. But it's totally manipulated. So when the government tells you what inflation is going to be, just go ahead and triple it. If you want to be safe, right? And then plan for it to be even more than that.
Well, and we talk a lot here on Free Talk Live about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Monero, Litecoin. There's a whole bunch of coins that we talk about, and a bunch that we probably should talk about that, I can't even keep track of them all. But we're not a crypto show. I mean, we love it, but it's not the focus. But if you look at cryptocurrency as being a better invention than state-sponsored currency. If that's
it is
your opinion, that's my opinion, and I think factually that opinion stands. If you look at it from the cryptocurrency perspective, it looks like a total S coin. And by S,
I mean the dollar does?
The dollar does. So listen to this. 27 trillion in circulation, an unlimited supply cap. There's only one node. 1% of holders own 30%. 25% of the supply minted in the last 6 months. Well, last year anyway.
Yeah.
38 million notes are printed every day, loses at least 3% of value every year.
That's according to the government.
And
that's what we're talking about here.
In a bear market since its conception.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at the factors that make a poor cryptocurrency,
it's worse than Doge. It's much worse than Doge.
Way worse.
By orders of magnitude. So Doge is a more solid mathematical currency than the U.S. dollar.
Doge has gone up hundreds of times in value from where it started. So people thought it would be it was a big deal when Doge reached 1 cent. You have to remember, Doge is what they consider to be a dust cryptocurrency because there are so many Doge out there. There's what is it, a few hundred trillion or something like that?
A bunch.
There's a lot of Doge out there. And then, of course, it's inflationary to the point where it never ends. There's not a final number of Doge that will ever be out like there is with Bitcoin, where there's only 21 million and that's it. So, Doge just keeps on coming. But yet, the market has said that this thing that was created as a joke is actually right now, I think, what is it, 25 cents today for a Doge or something like that? And that's down from its peak earlier this year of what was it, 60? I know
60,
it peaked when I
62
was
cents or something
yeah,
like that.
it peaked when I was in jail, so I didn't get to follow it
We
closely.
were joking around amongst the hosts about, and even on the air a little bit about how if Doge makes it to $1, then that means that the joke coin is going to be worth more than the USD.
I'm sure it'll one day make it to $1.
It seems like it has to.
Well, we'll have to is the rate that the dollar's going down in value.
That's right.
Which is really what we're talking about here with this inflation. It just means that there's more money being either printed or created out of thin air by way of, banks loaning out money. And thus, the more money that gets put into the system, the less every dollar that you hold is going to be worth every day.
We're going to continue here because there's actually more from Politico.com about the Federal Reserve, and this is the bigger story. Inflation, that happens all the time. And it's gone up because they've been doing, like you said, 25% of the dollars were printed just last year alone. That's a huge factor. But what about the digital dollar? They're talking about making a competitor to Bitcoin online. We'll tell you about it coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you're invited if you want to join us here. The number is 202-380-3699. We're talking about something that affects a lot of the people on this planet, and that is government inflation of the money supply. Remember, that's what inflation actually is. When you see prices going up, that is what you would call a symptom of inflation. And the reason for that is because if more dollars are put into existence, as they constantly are, and more so in the last year than probably our entire, lifetimes or something like that. It's 25% of the entire supply was added last year, which is crazy. But that affects anybody that's holding dollars, because the more dollars that exist, that means there's more dollars that are what they would call chasing the same amount of goods. And that means the price of those goods is going to go up.
Yep.
So the government has something called, I pulled up a little more information about it because I was just kind of talking about it off the top of my head a moment ago, but the Consumer Price Index, which is where they get their inflation numbers from. But they leave out certain things from that Consumer Price Index, like the cost of food.
Oh my God. Just all food.
Yeah, the cost of energy.
Oh my God.
Also left off that list. And I don't know if it's... I feel like I've heard that real estate is not in there either, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Wow.
I'm not sure. So if you know more, let us know. 202-380-3699.
I mean, food is one of the and within food, is it groceries? Because groceries is a much broader term that includes things like toilet paper and, napkins and, your disposable type stuff, your everyday stuff.
Yeah, how do they define these things?
Yeah, right. I thought you were going to say like, oh, they count bread but not orange juice. Not, oh, they just don't count food.
Yeah. So let's see. Housing units. I just looked this up. Is real estate in the CPI? Housing units are not in the CPI market basket.
None of those things are necessities. You don't need food, energy, or housing.
Well, let me tell you this. I get an update every now and then from Zillow, right? So Zillow is a real estate company. They're more like a tech company that focuses on real estate. You can go on their website and look at the price values of homes in your neighborhood. And I'm not in the market to buy a house, but it's one of those things I've been just kind of paying, somewhat of an attention to, because I'm in the world of that. I've had houses in the past, and I manage properties on behalf of the Shire Free Church today. So it's always interesting to see what the market's doing. And so they send me a little update that shows here's the homes, some of the homes that have sold in your area in the last 3 or however many months. Yeah. And then it compares the home sale average price to what it was a year ago. And I believe the last email I had that came in within the last month or two, prices were up at least 10%.
Oh, it's probably more than that, at least in the southwestern New Hampshire area, because as you know, it took me more than 5 years to actually come out here. I tried to and failed, and then I had to sort of go back and try again 5 years later when I successfully moved out here. I had been watching this real estate market in southwestern New Hampshire the entire time, looking for rentals, looking at prices of property, houses. Can I find a piece of property with just septic and water where I, roll a prefab or a mobile home onto, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. I ended up buying a house, but if you go and you look at all of the things that I looked at, I guess I've been here 2 years, so 7 years ago, some of them have been bought and then put back on the market since I've been looking. And all of them are up Like, I'm going to say my cursory inspection of these prices, like a good $50,000 per property. So if there
Since the last time you looked within the last year?
Since when I first looked, so this is a 7-year period, right?
Okay.
So
Sorry.
a house that sold for like $100,000, 5 to 7 years ago, now sells for at least $150,000, if not $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the prices have definitely gone up in the real estate market across the board. And I don't just look in this area. That I just happen to be familiar with it because I was studying this area for that period of time. But I look in other areas too, even in Seattle, Washington. Like, that thing's got to pop at some point, man. You can't buy a house in Seattle, Washington that's livable for under like $500,000.
Yeah, get a shack for
Wow.
like $300,000.
Yeah, if that,
Right.
or it's a mobile home, on a not even a quarter acre of land near a place that's, dirty and bug infested and, crime riddled and that kind of a thing. So even condominiums are super expensive in that area. So it has gone up price-wise across the board, across all states.
Yeah, and they just keep on cranking out the dollars. Yeah. So didn't Biden put out a proposed budget of like $7 trillion or something like that recently? And I don't know if that includes, that's for the next year, right? So that doesn't include the $2 trillion they just passed for the latest COVID bailout bill, and then you had the few trillion they did last year. So it's just, they just keep on cranking those dollars, and that's going to make your dollars worth less.
Well, and as a further illustration, my mom died a few years ago. They bought their house brand new in 1978 for $78,000.
Mm-hmm.
That house sold after she died. Kids got together. Okay, we'll sell the house. It sold for $259,000.
When was this?
2 years ago.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
you do the math on that. That's not because the house was worth that much more.
No.
In fact, it was probably worth less because it had seen decades of
it wasn't
wear
brand
and
new.
tear and use and all that kind of thing. They probably were average on house upkeep and that kind of a thing. But, I mean, it had its problems and that kind of a thing. And whoever bought it thought they were getting a smoking deal. They're like, really? In this neighborhood? In this
For
schooling
this much?
system? For, that kind of a thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, we can. This is a constant topic, the inflation idea. It's always out there. It's going to keep getting worse. And the only thing you can do about it is get out of the dollar.
Yes.
Whether that means getting into cryptocurrency or trying some sort of alternative, real estate can help you, I think, protect from inflation. Gold and silver, precious metals have historically been good hedges against inflation. Now, we're not investment advisors here,
right,
but this is like basic stuff that I've followed in the past. These are things that I've considered to be good ways out. And cryptocurrency has been, I think, performance-wise, the best. Cryptocurrency has gone up pretty consistently over the last decade. There's no guarantees. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's hard to pick a winner. So you don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin or Monero or which one's going to be the real winner.
At least like the top 10 cryptos have only gone up if you looked at it from a 10-year period.
Well, the
they first
top
came
10
out.
are always changing. That's
yeah,
the thing.
but they've only gone up from like when they started.
Oh yeah, almost all the cryptos out there, with the exception of the scam coins, that have completely failed. Because there are a bunch of them that have just failed completely. But
I just randomly said the top 10. But like, if you can look at the list of them in order of like the best, the top ones are gonna only have went up.
Generally, they have gone up over time. Now, in the last few months, there's been a dip in the markets over, since March or something like that. But here's the latest. Here's the further news. This is the bigger news. This is the unusual news. Headline over at Politico.com. Because as I said, inflation's not unusual. That's constant. It's just that it's going up faster, I think, now than it was. Fed explores once-in-a-century bid to remake the U.S. dollar. Subheadline: The rise of private cryptocurrencies motivated the Fed to start considering a digital dollar to be used alongside the traditional paper currency. What does that mean? What will it mean for you? What does it mean for inflation? Let's talk about that coming up here. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. 202-380-3699. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. It's bitcoin.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number is 202-380-3699. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. We're here live on the Sunday edition of the program. In the studio with you tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
The Reverend Captain Kickass is joining.
202-380-3699. The Federal Reserve, looking at a digital version of the dollar. Now, this is similar to what the Chinese government has been working on. We're going to tell you more about that coming up here in just a moment. Also, want to make sure you know that Bitcoin.com is a longtime sponsor here on Free Talk Live. They are a great destination to go to if you're looking to learn the basics about cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So head on over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page, and then begin your process of learning new things. And you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this. I mean, you can pour as much time as you want to into cryptocurrency, but just to get the basics, maybe 10, 15 minutes. There's, I think, a 3-minute long introductory video. If you want to stop there, you can, but you might be encouraged to continue on the process. It's a great place to go, and it is Bitcoin.com. We're going to go to your calls and thoughts. Let's talk to, we've got John on the line in Missouri. John, listening to KWTO there in Springfield. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks.
Once again, I myself, I'm pretty disheartened by the whole thing. I'm not a big believer in cryptocurrency because just like the dollar, I consider it to be a form of fiat currency. It's really not backed by anything that I can see. You could argue that the dollar is a petrodollar and it's backed by petroleum, the oil industry.
You can't really argue that.
No. You can't.
No.
So basically,
it's a war dollar. It's backed by war.
But that doesn't. That you can't redeem it. I mean, it's
That's
not
true. Yeah.
Exactly.
Backing suggests you can redeem it in most cases. Although I will say this: there is value that sort of quote unquote backs cryptocurrency as a whole, and that, like, let's focus on Bitcoin, for instance.
Yeah.
The value is the network. The sort of network effect that this thing has, where there are like 10,000 nodes that are on this system that cannot be shut down. Even if the Chinese government or the U.S. government says, that's it, we're shutting down every Bitcoin node in the country, it won't shut down Bitcoin. So there's value in the fact that it is cryptographically secure and that it cannot be stopped by governments or banks. So that is one of the reasons. And it does what it says it's going to do. When you say, send this value, this amount of Bitcoin to this person over here, across the world or down the street or wherever, it gets there. There's value with that.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it just seems that we're going down the path of the Roman Empire. It's like they had the same thing. They printed basically coins, and they sequentially pulled all the silver out of their coins until you were left basically with denarii that just basically were made out of zinc. That kind of thing, and eventually they just went bankrupt. They belly up. They were overrun by uncontrolled immigration. The Western Empire fell, and it basically had to reset itself in Byzantium, in the Eastern Empire. And my experience. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we're way past that because the dollar isn't backed by anything anymore, and
it hasn't been since the 70s.
Your idea that crypto is any type of fiat currency is just definitively not correct, because fiat currency is it means that it was authoritatively decreed to be worth something.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what fiat currency is.
Well, my experience, I'll wrap it up, but my thing, I saw basically, I have a friend, quotation marks, that was in the military in former Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, when that economy fell, basically it went to a barter system, a black market system. You could literally go into certain places at certain times of the day. Fuel trucks would pull up, people with chickens, people with clothes, people with weapons, it's like whatever you needed. It was a quick sell. Everybody would trade. And then before the authorities could arrive, boom, it was like a flash mob marketplace. Mm-hmm. And I think that once everything falls, we're going to go to the barter system, to be quite honest.
It doesn't make sense. There's no reason to go to barter because we have so many other better options. We have cryptocurrencies.
Superior technology.
We have gold backs. We have gold and silver. We have alternative currencies. The reason why barter doesn't work is because if you've got chickens and I've got coconuts and I don't need any chickens, but you've got, we can't, if we don't have something as a medium of exchange, we can't trade. And it becomes problematic, which is why, of course, money was created. So I don't think we're going back to that.
Crypto just wasn't invented yet during the times you're talking about.
The value
it's like if the power goes out, though, to actually send that crypto, you're going to need a power source. And if you don't have
So
a
hard.
power source, Jim, that kind of thing, you can't send crypto.
Yeah, there's
And
no
so we
doubt.
go
If the
back to
internet goes down, cryptocurrency is not going to be particularly useful, which is why I say you've got other alternatives. You've got gold and silver. You've got the new gold back that just came out in 2019. If you haven't taken a look at that, you probably should. It is a very small amount of gold that you can spend, as small as 1/1000th of an ounce. So basically 3 or 4. You've seen it? You familiar with it?
I've heard of it, and actually, that's not an old. That's actually those have come out before in the past. If you
No, they
look
haven't.
way back, it's like there's been like inflated. There's been little pieces of gold.
No, this
Not
isn't
in our
like
currency.
you don't know what I'm talking about. You should go and check it out.
Okay,
Go
I'll
to
check it out. Yeah, I'm
goldback.com. It is beautiful. It's new technology.
It's
It was
so
not.
awesome.
It has never been
Okay.
available in the past. It's never been possible to have 1/1000th of an ounce of gold in a spendable form. I mean, think about an ounce of gold and think about what 1,000th of that might look like as a little speck. They've managed to take that and essentially spray it onto a substrate of polymer, of plastic, and it's incredibly beautiful. Thank you, John, for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you.
I wanted to mention real quick too that the value that cryptocurrency has is in mathematics. And what I mean by that is the mathematics have solved the Byzantine general's problem. The caller brought
What
up.
is that? What is that problem?
Well, the Byzantine general's problem is just you need a third-party verification up until the invention of Bitcoin. So accounting, is famous for the double entry system. You've seen the accounting paper with the light green and the dark green lines and that kind of a thing. That's a double entry system, and what it does is it acts as a form of verification, but there always used to need to be a third party, an authority to verify that, and that traditionally has been governments
or accountants or whatever,
banks. To verify the accuracy of these transactions. Well, cryptocurrency uses mathematics to be that third party, and that's the network effect that you were talking about, Ian. So all of the millions of computers around the world that are mining cryptocurrency and solving these issues and verifying these transactions have solved what is known as the Byzantine general's problem, which is you used to need a third party verification to try. Now you no longer need that. You have the network effect to do that for you, and this eliminates the necessity for both banks and governments to act as that authority in your transactions, your medium of
the ledger.
currency.
The ledger exists in multiple places simultaneously and cannot be.
And instead of a double entry, it's now a triple entry.
Yeah.
Right. And that third leg of the triple entry is the verification leg. That is the network effect. The other piece of value that cryptocurrency has is it can be programmed with features, something no state currency has ever been able to do.
Well, they added the strips.
That's not programming it with a feature.
They have micro printing.
So imagine this. The government has traditionally served as your verification or your authority for like titling property, like a vehicle, for example. Now imagine I could take the title of a vehicle and upload it to one specific Satoshi of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And now when I decide to sell that car, I just transfer that Satoshi to your possession. And now you're the owner of that car.
And it's a
you're in
permanent
possession.
transfer.
It's a permanent transfer that's recognized by the entire blockchain, by the whole globe, and no government needs to be involved. It's a bureaucracy killer.
Yeah, what you're saying here is that money or value transfer with money is just the first application for Bitcoin or blockchain technology, that there are all kinds of other potential applications, many of which are being busily worked on. And as another nice thing about the cryptocurrency world is all of these features you're talking about can be developed without ever having to ask anyone's permission. You don't have to go to some licensing board, submit an application, submit a licensing fee, hope that they approve you, beg for permission. You can just create the thing you want to create on whichever blockchain you want to create it on. And if the blockchain doesn't exist yet that you need, you can make that too. You can just copy somebody else's work because it's almost all open source. There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can bring up what you want here, the live Sunday edition of the program, and this may be the last live show for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think about that.
It's festival season.
It is, and Aria, as I understand it, is going to be heading out there tomorrow morning to Rogers Campground, on which Free Talk Live will be broadcasting, just without me. And I've been there for, the last decade.
All of them.
Plus, basically. It's pretty frustrating not being able to go up there, but I'm on some pretty restricted bail conditions. But luckily, the show will go on, and that
for
means,
those of you who can't see me on camera, I'm shaking my fist at the Federals.
Yeah, it sucks, but it'll be fun for you, hopefully, listening, because it's an interesting event. Porcupine Freedom Festival kicks off tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Goes for a week, and then Fork Fest kicks off the following Monday.
Oh, man, Kirby's Q is up there. They're doing breakfast.
Oh, right. They're already there?
They're already there. They're setting up. They said they'd be in today, but they won't actually open for business till Monday morning breakfast time.
It really does feel like we're missing some kind of like pilgrimage of our religion.
yeah.
It really does feel like that. Like Tom Woods is going to be there speaking.
So check them out over at porkfest.com. That event is sold out. The Fork Fest is not sold out because there are no tickets. You can go learn more about that at forkfest.party. But I wanted to also tell you about libertystickers.com. If you want to reach people with the ideas of liberty, you can do it from the back of your car with libertystickers.com. You can reach thousands of people with a bumper sticker, and you know that people love to read them. So check out the vast selection of witty, poignant, pithy, and downright bombastic liberty-oriented messages at libertystickers.com. It reminds me of years ago when the Porcupine Freedom Festival was very popular, because this year's a sold out event. It's never happened before, so this is going to be the biggest one
historical
ever.
Event.
But for the last several years, the numbers have been down quite a bit at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. And so I remember like 10 years ago when it was kind of on towards its previous peak, that you could drive up as you were like driving up I-91 through Vermont. You'd see people with like Pork Fest or Bust on the back of their cars because there were that many people that were going up to this event.
A little bit of a convoy.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll will be happening again this year, because that's always fun.
Well, and that also bodes well for Fork Fest the week after, leading up to the 4th of July weekend, which is great for Fork Fest as well, because that is a party. Now, as I understand it, Arya is going to be there for both weeks.
That's right.
If you're there for Pork Fest, I'm told, this is a rumor, I haven't verified, I'm told that you might also bump into Mark Edge, the co-founder of this show, and then I will be up there for most of Fork Fest as well.
Great.
So Free Talk Live will be there vicariously.
Yeah.
No, Ian, we cannot replace you, but we will do our best to represent Free Talk Live.
So you'll get a real taste for the event if you weren't able to make it. And I know there was a lot of people who were asking, hey, how do I go to PorkFest this year? And the answer was, sorry, they're sold out. But you can go to ForkFest, so check out forkfest.party. In fact, I heard that ForkFest is the #1 sponsor of the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year. So like when you go to the sponsors page at the PorkFest website, ForkFest is the top listing there. So
that's awesome.
A lot of people who haven't heard of ForkFest previously are going to hear about it this year. So we may see a lot of folks who just, they're like, you know what? I got an extra few days. I'm staying on.
There are, I want to say, several folks that are doing events at either Porcupine Freedom Festival or ForkFest that will be benefits for the Crypto 6.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
So that's cool. For folks who don't know, if you've wanted to support the Crypto 6, you haven't been to the crypto6.com or whatever, if you're at the Porcupine Freedom Festival or Fork Fest, there will be ways for you to participate and contribute to help the Crypto 6.
We've been talking about the Federal Reserve. They're looking at a digital dollar. We haven't even really scratched the surface on this story. We're going to get into that. But first, Jerome is on the line. He's in South Carolina listening to WTMA. Go ahead, Jerome.
Hey, y'all going to be gone for 2 weeks. What am I supposed to do for 2 weeks?
You can...
Who am I going to talk to for 2 weeks?
You can call yourself.
I will miss you, Jerome. I have to say, I really enjoy your calls, and I think you're one of my favorite callers out there.
We could give you the home number, Jerome, and you can just call and see if somebody picks up.
That would be exciting. Can I call them every 5 minutes and harass them?
No, don't do that.
You only get one call a day, just like on the show.
Yeah, don't do that.
Hey, Ian, this is Jerome. Hey, Ian, this is Jerome.
Hey, Ian, what are you wearing?
Oh, my God.
Hey, Ian, have you heard about this totally political thing that you pay no attention to that I'm calling about?
Go ahead, Jerome. What were you calling about tonight?
I just want to know this story that came out like a couple of weeks ago about Trump using Barr to spy on Democrats, his Democratic enemies and their children. Is anyone going to have to come and testify about this? Because I sure would like to see that one. I would love to see Barr, fat, chubby, doughy William
Roseanne Barr?
So, for listeners who don't know, this Barr character was the Attorney General during the Trump, or one of the attorneys. I think he burned through a few of them in his 4 years.
Oh, yeah, Jeff the guy from Alabama too. He may have to come because he was in on it too.
Yeah.
In on what? Spying on Democrats?
Yeah. They had Adam Schiff on today, and I said, well, when I heard he was going to be on, I said, oh, I know he wasn't surprised by that because he can't stand Trump, and I know that Trump would do anything to try to get back at him. And they was asking, he was kind of vague about what.
I wish they would spend more time fighting one another, the Democrats and the Republicans. If they're investigating each other, then that's less time that they can spend investigating people like us.
I think the WWE should get involved and hold a Republican versus Democrat cage match.
I might pay to see it.
What I wanted to ask was, there was a guy named Mark Levin who, for over a year while Trump was in office, kept saying, well, President Obama spied on Trump. Like we can have evidence. Never showed any evidence. And now there's this story out about Trump and Barr conspiring and colluding in sessions, and they're not talking about it. They got nothing to say, and they got proof that he was doing it.
I think it's just not surprising that the government is spying on each other. I mean, they spy on us. They spy on everyone.
Sure.
16,000.
They're super paranoid.
There's a report coming out that the FBI was spying on 16,000 Americans, and the NSA.
That's all?
No, well, this report, the NSA is forcing them to come out with a report saying, oh, these are the 16,000 Americans. We have no substantial reason to explain why we were spying on them.
Hold on, the NSA is forcing the FBI to reveal they were spying on 16,000 people they shouldn't.
Yep, the NSA.
Don't you just hate it when women have facts? Don't you just hate that? When you're trying to argue with them and they start giving you the facts and then you got to be quiet. Don't you just hate that?
I don't know. She's got all kinds of facts and she's super cute when she does it. So
I heard her.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jerome, I'm not really worried about it, man. I don't care if they, if they put each other in jail. I hope they do. I hope they prosecute each other and they spend all kinds of time and effort going after each other, because it's like I said, it's less time that they can spend going after actual peaceful people.
When I call y'all up and try to have some fun, you're such a killjoy. You know what?
I don't find politics to be fun. I find it to be really tiresome. It's annoying.
That's exactly what I mean.
I want them to go away.
It'd probably be a lot more fun if you didn't call in praising Trump all the time.
It's as fun as getting a tick, having a bunch of ticks all over your body. That's what I consider politicians to be.
Right. Okay. All right.
And they're as ugly as ticks too. I mean, they're just horrifying.
That's the translation. Poly, many, ticks, bloodsuckers.
Yeah, there you go.
Many bloodsuckers.
Thanks, Jerome. I appreciate it, man. The number here is 202-380-3699 if you want to join us. And we don't need them. They need us. They live off of us. And it's the inflation is how they get away with it. Because, they've got their taxes and, Biden's talked about raising taxes. But ultimately, they don't even need to. They can just keep printing money out. They don't need to raise taxes because inflation is a tax. It is the most insidious of taxes because it hits everybody that's got the dollar.
It's the printing of money. It's the 12 years of indoctrination. I always bring out this example for anybody.
12 years? They're talking about government preschool now.
Well, okay. So just imagine any other brand instead of government, right? Instead of the United States, right? Imagine any other brand, right? Let's take
Nike.
Nike. All right. So you go to school. I pledge allegiance to the swoosh of the United States of Nike.
Just do it.
And to the Air Jordans for which we stand. One nation in tennis shoes. Indivisible with slam dunks and 3-point shots for all. Right now, imagine you get 12 years of that repeated every day. Your children get 12 years of that. And now you go out into the world and you're like, well, of course Nike's the best.
Sure.
We loved Nike. We couldn't live without Nike. If Nike went away, who would build the roads?
202.
We would have no shoes.
202-380-3699. We got hour number 2 on the way here, the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live, where you can take control of the airwaves. The Fed's got a plan, maybe, to do a digital dollar. Now, they're talking about it. What's it mean? More coming up.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tropical Depression Claudette blamed for 12 deaths in Alabama. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. A 15-vehicle pileup likely due to hydroplaning, claiming the lives of 10 people, 9 of them children. A man and a 3-year-old boy killed when a tree fell on their house. The storm downgraded to a depression as it moved onshore.
We do expect it to become a tropical storm again in the vicinity of eastern North Carolina.
Eric Blake with the National Weather Service. Tropical storm watches are in effect for the area. Police in Arizona shoot a suspect who allegedly drove into cyclists during a race in Show Low, east of Phoenix. Fox's Christina Coleman.
A cyclist tells the New York Times that he saw the truck driving in the opposite direction and then cross over 3 lanes and head straight toward the cyclist. This person says the driver intentionally hit the group and accelerated before hitting a telephone pole. According to this witness, cyclists pounded on the truck's windows and were screaming for him to get out of the vehicle. And instead, the suspect made a U-turn and headed back toward the cyclist.
7 victims were taken to a hospital, most in serious condition. The suspect is in stable condition. The congressional wrangling continues over a bipartisan infrastructure bill. Fox's Rich Edson.
There is that bipartisan group of senators. They're working on about $1 trillion proposal. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, is part of that group. He says the group will release its framework by Wednesday, the latest. As Republicans say, a deal is ready to go if the White House is willing. And Republicans are negotiating with Democrats, and Democrats are negotiating also with other Democrats. A number of progressive Democrats say that $1 trillion bill just isn't enough. They say that they need to add on to more to that. They're discussing around $6 trillion.
Some Democratic leaders are pushing for budget reconciliation, which would bypass the need for Republican support. America's listening to Fox News.
When you're running a business, when is it convenient to go to the post office? On your lunch break? At the end of the day? Saturday? How about never? Join the nearly 1 million businesses using Stamps.com. Get discounts up to 40% off post office rates and now up to 66% off UPS shipping rates. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, and enter code FOX for a 4-week trial, plus free postage and an easy-to-use digital scale. Sign up at Stamps.com, click the microphone, and enter code FOX. That's Stamps.com, code FOX.
Plenty of criticism for the Biden administration's handling of migrants arriving at the U.S. southern border. Fox's Bill Malugin in La Jolla, Texas.
Those rising temperatures certainly are not slowing down the migrants. They're still coming. They're coming every day. And it's getting more dangerous. But these human smugglers out there, they don't care about those temperatures. They're taking advantage of the migrants, and they are ruthless in some of the things that they are doing. 15 migrants who had been locked inside of a moving train by human smugglers. They were inside of grain hoppers. It was 110 degrees inside of those grain hoppers. Texas state troopers and Border Patrol had to rescue them. 5 of the migrants were already suffering heat stroke. Thankfully, agents able to get on scene there.
Florida's governor is sending law enforcement to Texas and Arizona, where Republican governors have asked for help in managing the influx of migrants. In Oakland, California, a 22-year-old man is dead, 5 other people injured during a shooting near the city's Juneteenth celebration. Police say the gunfire erupted last night near Lake Merritt. The victims are 16 to 27 years old. 1 is female. It's not clear if the shooting is related to the celebration. It's Father's Day. Fox's Tanya J. Powers looks at the history of the day.
Father's Day is observed every year on the 3rd Sunday of June, and the holiday goes back more than 100 years. Sonora Smart Dodd, the daughter of an American Civil War veteran, is generally credited with coming up with the idea. She was moved by a church.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
From the admission of Ant Colony 000082567 KLN 00067X into the Union in 1897, to the day in 1817 when embarrassed construction workers realized they put the Erie Canal in the wrong place. The Onion looks back at This Week in History. On August 5th, 1962, Nelson Mandela was jailed until 1990, becoming fully rehabilitated through the South African penal system. And thanks to the services provided to him while imprisoned, emerged from jail a successful politician and internationally revered symbol of peace. Mandela's record of overcoming hardships and moving South Africa beyond its formidable racial struggles is a lasting testament to South Africa's correctional facilities and prove that the penal system's small cells, demeaning work duties, and minimal rations are exactly the tools needed for a prisoner to truly become a reformed citizen.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, live Sunday edition of the show. The number's 202-380-3699. And you can take control of the airwaves. You don't have to talk about the money, the government money that is being debased constantly as they print trillions upon trillions more dollars.
Money printer go.
It's to the point where the number of zeros is really hard for, I think, people to really have any kind of conceptualization as to what it actually means. But what it actually means is that the money that you do have is going down in value. You can count on that when it comes to the government money. And now they're talking about introducing a digital dollar. And when I say digital dollar, I don't mean like the digital dollars we've had as far as like when you swipe a credit card or the money that's in a bank account represented by ones and zeros in a computer system. Technically, those are digital dollars too, but a different concept, one that's sort of supposed to sound like cryptocurrency, but it's not. And
here's an idea.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the government just adopt stablecoin?
Well, let's talk about what that means and all that here in just a moment. But I want to get to your calls and thoughts. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
It's the captain.
To your calls and thoughts. Joe is on the line. He's in Atlanta listening on the radio. Joe, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thank you. You guys have a great show. It's very informative. And I definitely wanted to pause my run for a second to give you guys a call.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys are very well educated on your topic. You can hear it. Just a couple things. I'm a long-time investor. I grew up with a Fidelity folder, and it was just something I learned how to do for my folks. However, crypto has never been terribly attractive to me. And I think a lot of in my opinion, a lot of what I see in regards of the social climate around crypto is a romanticism. And typically in just the history of markets and stable markets, one of the warnings or red flags that I've always associated with a crash is that this euphoria associated with a currency or a stock, and especially when they're so volatile. This idea that the U.S. dollar isn't backed by anything is only partially true, because the government, of course, is able to tax businesses and people and create bonds or sell assets or do many things that provide a formidable backing behind the U.S. dollar.
That's not really backing, though. I mean, backing traditionally has meant that you can go and get something for your dollar. Like back when it was backed by silver, you could go to the Federal Reserve and exchange dollars for silver, and you could actually get real value from it. Saying the government can tax people is not a form of value.
Sure. So what I would say to
that's just stealing.
Sure. Well, what I would say to that is the majority of Bitcoin purchases, in fact, I'd imagine an overwhelming majority of them, are purchased via fiat money. And then from my perspective and from what I've seen is the majority of those transactions are made with the idea that Bitcoin is going to somehow rise in price as an investment. The majority of purchasing I see isn't done by people who want to actually spend their Bitcoin.
That's true. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah. However, I would like to point out here in Keene, New Hampshire, and other places on the planet. For example, tonight I went and had dinner at a very nice restaurant here in town. I paid with Bitcoin cash.
What's it called?
It's called Pho Keene Great.
I love that restaurant.
Yes, it's a pho restaurant. PHO.
Yep.
And I was able to pay with Bitcoin Cash tonight is what I paid for my dinner.
There's something like a dozen businesses here in a tiny little town of 23,000 people that actually do accept cryptocurrency at their point of sale. So it is done. But you're right, Joe. Most people getting into crypto have seen number go up, and they want to get in on that craze. And I think you're not wrong about that.
I would caution you, though, I respect your position as an investor, but keep in mind that cryptocurrency, the blockchain, is a new technology. It is not a stock.
Yeah, it's not a stock.
It is not. It is a different animal. And so some of the rules that you might be used to applying to stocks and trades and all of that kind of thing may not apply. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that they may not.
So my answer to that, and it's an excellent point. It is absolutely a blockchain-fueled. I don't like to use the word regulated when I speak about it, but it's blockchain-backed and fueled. Now that blockchain has been assumed by, in particular, China, where we see the majority of the mining taking place. I think I've read almost 70% of that blockchain.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Isn't China's government going after the miners again? They keep threatening them, and then
they are. In fact, a whole bunch of them, I think, are shutting down as we speak.
And we're going to see other international and in our case, national banks doing similar things.
That doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me if it's not American. Well, it's not an American.
Your Bitcoin may very soon become worthless. It's that volatile. And the idea
that's not true.
Behind that.
Because people are mining it in China?
I'd like to say it's not true, but it's a speculative market.
Sure, anything's possible.
I mean,
Bitcoin
we could say that about the dollar.
Bitcoin, the dollar is going to go down.
Yeah,
that's
but I'm just saying, of course, that could happen. I could say that about the dollar. It's not like, oh, you got me, now let's not invest in Bitcoin.
But here's the thing, Joe, as far as, Bitcoin tomorrow could all of a sudden go to zero. It's possible.
That's correct.
But the odds that it will are very, very low, because the more people start to value Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, the more they start to use them, the more they learn about them, the more they accept them. And we're not seeing usage and acceptance and value of it going down over time. It has gone up pretty consistently. Yeah, it's got peaks and valleys, but if you look at the last 12 years that Bitcoin's been around, it's been a ride up for most, with the exception of the last few months.
And even with the dip that we're in currently, adoption has not gone down.
That's right.
Adoption continues to rise, even though Bitcoin per se, in and of itself, and the market as a whole, is down right now.
But one thing's for sure, you can't pick. You don't know who the winner is going to be long term. We don't know if Bitcoin's going to stay on top of the heap. That if it'll be replaced by another competitor, and how soon that'll happen. But one thing I think we can say for sure, this technology, you mentioned blockchain, and for our listeners that don't know blockchain, to go back, if you were tuning in earlier, you might have heard Captain kind of explaining the idea that it's a public ledger that's available on thousands of nodes all around the planet. It can't be hacked. It can't be, messed with. You can't cook the books. This technology, whether it ends up being Bitcoin or something else, it's not going away. Would you agree with that?
So I would actually make 2 points in regards to your previous statement. So number one, as beautiful an idea as the utopian Bitcoin is, its lack of surveillance will simply disrupt and remaneuver these international and national governing bodies.
What do you mean by lack of surveillance?
Oh, we need an authority.
So
the
fact that there is no surveillance within the Bitcoin community will piss these governments off to the point where they release their national digital currency and they ultimately do a China and they ban Bitcoin. And that's just inevitable. And that's Big Brother at its finest.
Well, first of all, there is surveillance when it comes to Bitcoin because the blockchain is public. There are private blockchains out there like Monero, for instance, or the Pirate Chain.
I debate with you on whether or not Bitcoin can be properly surveilled. There's not much of a paper trail behind Bitcoin, and I've dealt with it.
What you can't tell is, like, for instance, if you were to go and get an Edge wallet tonight, or an Exodus wallet, or one of these roll your own private or private keys are in your possession wallets, and you create that wallet and you don't tell anyone about it, then no one knows that you have that particular wallet address. However, every Bitcoin that's ever been spent can be traced back to the moment and to the place, the wallet where it was originally mined to. So the entire Bitcoin blockchain is completely traceable and public. But I get your concern, Joe. The idea being that the government will see a threat from cryptocurrencies and try to outlaw them. And I think
I don't get as concerned because it's not an issue with Bitcoin. Why would the answer be, let's only transact in dollars because the government might make it illegal? The issue is stop listening to the government. Stop doing everything the government says.
I get his concern, though, because that tends to be what government does. If they can't control a thing, and Joe, good call, thanks for making it tonight. I appreciate the discussion. If they can't control a thing, they want to ban it. I mean, that tends to be the government's way. But the good news is, even if they do ban cryptocurrencies, and I don't think they really can because it's ultimately a free speech issue in the U.S., and I think they'll fail if they try to ban it, they can't get rid of them. They won't go away. Nope. There's more coming up here in moments. 202-380-3699. Thank you, Joe. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Yeah! You can join us if you want. The number is 202-380-3699. 202-380-3699. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And the captain.
We've got more to say on this Federal Reserve digital dollar.
I've got something to say.
That they are promoting. They're talking about publicly now, I guess, and we'll try to have some sort of explanation for what this thing is.
I spent some Bitcoin today.
It's Ian, Bonnie, and Captain Kickass in the studio here. Did either of you guys feel like you really got a chance to respond to that last caller? Bonnie, I didn't think you did. Yeah.
This is what I wanted to say. He was saying, well, for one thing, he was talking about crypto like it was all Bitcoin. If, he's saying that your Bitcoin could be worth zero because 70% of it's mined in China and they make it illegal there.
That's not going to make it go to zero, even if that does happen.
First of all, it's not going to make it go to zero, and you made it sound like earlier that you thought it could. But
no, it could.
No, I'm saying Bitcoin, it's possible for Bitcoin to go to zero, not necessarily as a result of anything China's doing. It's just possible because it's a new technology. You know, if people suddenly abandon it for some reason, let's say, for example, some other cryptocurrency that does it better, faster, and, more feature rich than Bitcoin comes out of nowhere.
All of them.
Yeah, comes out of nowhere,
and
everybody. It's like the migration from MySpace to Facebook, right? When that thing happened, Facebook became a deserted wasteland. It's entirely possible.
You mean MySpace?
I'm sorry, MySpace became a deserted wasteland, and everybody was on Facebook.
It'll happen to Facebook at some point too. Something else will knock it out.
So that's entirely possible. He was talking about the I think he called it the social something surrounding the currency, the social climate around the currency. It is a very
he called it romanticism. That was the word.
Yeah, and it currently is, because of the fact that it came out of nowhere.
And it's a new technology.
And a new technology that made some people very wealthy.
I wanted to say that too, because he was like, and I know from stocks, you don't want to go for stocks that people are all hyped about. Yeah, you don't want to go buy, what was it, the GameStop stock when everybody's talking about it. It's not stocks. It's not the same thing at all. It's a new technology.
Yeah.
If you want to get into computers when computers are invented, you don't want to get into GameStop stocks when everybody's hyped about GameStop stocks.
Right. And
It's just not the same thing. It's apples and oranges.
Right,
Sorry.
and that's a good point that it's apples and oranges, because when it comes to a stock, you're talking about a company that's run by people, and they have a product or a service or whatever, and they've got a vision,
and controlled by the government as just the result of being a corporation.
Correct. They're corporate controlled by the government, and the stock market's controlled and regulated by the government.
Right.
Whereas with cryptocurrency, when it comes to Bitcoin specifically, there are people, like there are programmers, but anyone can contribute to the programming. It's open source, so there's no private intellectual property laws or patents or ownership or licensing.
Nobody's
or
getting
anything
royalties or anything like that.
Yeah, it's truly a free marketplace, because if somebody doesn't like the way Bitcoin is, let's say somebody says, oh, well, Bitcoin is too slow, so they make another cryptocurrency. They take Bitcoin's code because it's open source. They can just press copy and then paste and then edit. And that's what they did when Litecoin came out in 2013. The guy who made Litecoin said, Bitcoin's too slow. I'm going to make it 4 times faster. And so he made what they call the block time, which is the amount of time between blocks that are mined onto the blockchain by the miners. This is what the miners do, without getting into technical details, is they take the waiting transactions that are out there in what's called the mempool, those who've said, send and receive, whatever, and it mines them into that block, making them permanently part of the blockchain, permanently part of that ledger, that public ledger we discussed. So he said, I think it should be 4 times faster, and that's all he did. He didn't make any other changes to the Bitcoin code. Others have added other features to the code. Others have changed it completely in a lot of different ways. Some have rolled their own cryptos from scratch, like Monero, which has nothing from the Bitcoin code. It might take some basic concepts from it, but the actual code was something completely different. So it's open source. It's a true free market, and stocks are totally regulated and totally controlled. So yeah, people should do their due diligence and actually look into this rather than just blowing it off.
I have one other comment to make. If he's that worried about people mining in China, he can mine himself. Like,
That's
anybody
true.
can mine here.
Yeah, there's nothing
Encourage
at all.
others to do it.
Right. There's nothing at all stopping anyone with, a few $1,000s on their hands to get into the world of cryptocurrency mining. You could probably do it for a few $100, for the cheaper cryptos, the smaller ones out there. I know, Captain, you've dabbled a little bit in this area. You've not done Bitcoin proper, right? You've done some of the
Right,
alternatives.
Yeah. I mined some Hush. I mined some Zen. And
you still doing it?
No, it's summertime. So I use my crypto miners for heat.
So you do it part-time?
Yeah, I do part-time. And I mean, if you look at the dollar figures, it literally has paid for my winter heating bill.
It's amazing.
Which is quite cool. Like, I basically got free
or warm
heat.
in this case.
I got free heat and, paid my electric bill for me. So I'm not complaining at all. I had to do it, like, there's specialized equipment that I had to purchase for these particular coins, and I can only mine.
Now, are you liquidating?
5
I mean,
coins.
obviously I'm asking you a lot of questions about something that could be a private thing, but are you selling them all, or are you holding on to some of them?
Oh, I'm hodling.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it didn't really pay for your electric bill.
Well, I mean,
you're paying for it. You're turning your electric bill into cryptocurrency.
Somebody told me that what I'm doing is using the electric company as a non-KYC exchange.
That's right. Well, it's not exchange. I guess you're exchanging electricity for.
I'm exchanging electricity for cryptocurrency is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and it's off the books as far as like what the government knows.
Well, I mean
they know now because you just said it.
I do have to give my slave name and all that to the electric company, so it's not really non-KYC, but I just look at it as it's a benefit to me to get the heat off of these machines, produce an incredible amount of heat. It gets cold in the winter here in the Shire.
Instead of just paying for electric heat, which your house is an electric heated house.
Right.
When you bought it, that's the way it was.
Yep.
So instead of just paying for the heat, now you're heating and getting something out of it.
Correct.
When you do that, which is cool. Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. We got Robert. He's on the line in South Carolina listening to WTMA in Charleston. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, I just heard what you said at the beginning of the program, about having to be off the air and undergoing those kinds of difficulties. My suggestion is, don't stick your head out too far, because these things are going to go the way they're going to go anyhow. This is a big item, and one person or even one organization is not going to make that much of a difference. This is kind of like when the Romans invaded Jerusalem in AD 70.
Haven't you ever watched Knight Rider?
Have I?
Yeah.
No,
remember
I don't believe I have.
the old show with David Hasselhoff?
The car that talks.
And the car that talks.
Named Kit.
The Knight Industries 2000.
I rarely
The
watch
first lesson of Knight Rider is one man can make a difference.
Yes, one man can make a difference. That's true. But this is going to go the way it's going to go anyhow, whether you get involved or not.
Well, I don't know if I subscribe to that particular philosophy. I can understand where you're coming from. You're saying that one man ultimately is just a drop in the ocean, and
Tell that to Tank Man.
Ooh, great point. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Robert. I have the habit of sticking my head up, and that does mean that sometimes you could get it cut off by government agents.
Or whack-a-mole.
And I bring this up, I think I've brought it up a few times here on Free Talk Live, but in any social movement of any kind, the second man is the most important. Mm-hmm. And so if one man sticks his head out and other people also stand up and go, hey, me too, then that's the beginning of the social movement. And then the third man and the fourth man become the most important, et cetera, and so on.
In this case, they're trying to cut off 6 heads at once, though. The Crypto 6 were all arrested at the same morning in March. You can go to thecrypto6.com to learn more about what's happening to some of us here. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
If you're looking for work, you know the math. There are many more applicants than openings, so you need to stand out, not blend into the blah, blah, blah your interviewer is hearing from your competition. Here's a tip. In your interview, you will be judged more by the questions you ask than the answers you give. Yes, do anticipate the obvious job interview questions and prepare concise, insightful, glass-half-full sounding responses. And you should interview your interviewer. Seem genuinely curious about what will help get results. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. You want to cut through the clutter. For more tips for job seekers and making all the other conversations you have more productive, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live.
How can you be a good human being by putting someone in a cage who has not ever hurt another person?
Are we a country of laws or not?
No, we're not.
We're not.
No,
Okay.
you're not. Did
We're not.
Charlie
We're
Rangel
not.
go to
Yeah.
prison for fudging his tax returns? Have you ever seen a police officer pull over another police officer for rolling through a stoplight? No, we are not a country of laws.
But Charlie Rangel and all that other stuff, okay, they got out of it. Okay, that's true. But we, me, you, everybody else, everybody that I'm at the stoplight with, we're stopping at the stoplight because it's a law to stop at the stoplight.
Yes, the serfs have to obey the law. I agree with you. In a country of laws, everybody, every human being has to obey the laws. We are in a class-based system, and you are the lowest portion, unless you're a cop who hasn't mentioned it
You have
yet.
never been outside this country, have you?
I have been to 24 countries.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything here. The number, if you want to join us on this live Sunday episode, is 202-380-3699. That's 202-380-3699. Or there's another option now that you can call in with called SIP, which is an online calling system that is free to use. So wherever you are in the world, you can now easily call Free Talk Live. And when I say easy, I mean you do have to do a little hoop jumping to get it set up. But there are some step-by-step instructions that I've included. If you go to freetalklive.com, you'll find them there.
I saw an email about it too. It was pretty good.
I sent it out as an email.
You're very thorough.
I try
with your directions.
You know, it's a process. You know, you got to download an app and make sure you get an account and set it up right. But it's all free, so it just takes you, I don't know, 10 minutes or something like that, and then you should be able to call in, and you'll sound great. You'll sound better through this SIP method than you would if you just picked up the phone.
Yeah, and it's also easier on us because it doesn't require us to have like a secondary method to answer these calls. Especially they come in.
Yeah, it comes into
the same place. So we treat it just like any other call, except it sounds way better.
Yeah, so try that out if you get the chance. It's Ian Bonney and Captain Kickass in the studio here. Let's get into this story. We've been teasing it for an hour or so.
All show
from Politico.com. It's about the Federal Reserve taking what they say may be the first significant step toward launching its own virtual currency, a move that could shake up banks, give millions of low-income Americans access to the financial system, and fortify the dollar's status as the world reserve currency.
I don't buy any of those words.
Well,
I mean, the dollar is already a digital currency.
True.
How is making this digital dollar going to give any poor people more access that they don't have already to the dollar? The dollar is...
Here's how. Okay, without having read this story in detail, my understanding is the federal government will begin operating wallets. And
literally.
And here's what some people are saying. So like Vin Armani, former co-host here on Free Talk Live, he's now changed his name, by the way. He's now Ciprianus, or Cyprian, I think, on Twitter. Anyway, he is saying that what they're going to do is they're going to, of course it's the government, so it could be years before they actually finally roll this thing out. But once they get this thing out, they'll say, all right, new stimulus package, you needed more COVID money or whatever the reason is at the time.
Yeah.
Here's your $1,200 check. You can only redeem it if you open up one of these new central bank wallets.
I heard that he changed his name because he loves calling into Free Talk Live using the SIP.
No, unfortunately, we haven't heard from Vin in quite a while. I love the guy, but he made the move down to the Mariana Islands, and he is having a time of his life down there. It
nice. Good for him.
Seems like. So good for him. He posts some really interesting stuff to Twitter, though. So they're making it sound like this is going to be the next level for the dollar, that this is going to be the evolution of the dollar. The idea of creating a fully digital version of the U.S. dollar, which was unthinkable just a few years ago, has gained bipartisan interest from lawmakers as diverse as Senator Elizabeth Warren, who, by the way, recently attacked, I believe, cryptocurrency, if I recall her. Either was her or Nancy Pelosi. I get those two mixed up.
Never trust a woman with two first names either.
And John Kennedy, because of its potential benefits for consumers who don't have bank accounts. But it's also sparking strong pushback from those with the most to lose, the banks. Quote, the United States should not implement a central bank digital currency simply because we can or because others are doing so, unquote, said the American Bankers Association in a statement to lawmakers this week.
We might have to get a real job.
I mean, okay, so this is, I like the wedge being driven between the banks and the state here.
Yeah.
If there's a redeeming quality to, so far, this sounds like it might be it.
Say said in a statement this week to the government gang, the benefits are, quote, theoretical, said the bankers, difficult to measure, and may be elusive, while the negative consequences could be severe, they wrote. The explosive rise of private cryptocurrencies in recent years motivated the Fed to start considering a digital dollar to be used alongside the traditional paper currency. The biggest driver of concern was a Facebook-led effort launched in 2019 to build a global payments network using crypto technology. Where is that, by the way? Has anybody heard what the latest is on the Facebook stablecoins?
Oh, Libra?
Yeah.
Why would they name it that?
They changed the name a couple of times, I think.
No. Cryptocurrency of the corporation, I think, is just a failing premise.
Yeah. Well, they failed already because they really, Facebook screwed it up by announcing
it
that they were going to do
doing
this.
it.
Yeah.
Isn't the funniest thing about all of this story is just like how late the government is
to the
why
game.
Why weren't they doing this
Well,
10 years ago?
And the banks too. Like I contend, and I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas, but the banks have had a decade now to, fire up a bunch of cryptocurrency miners at all of their bank locations, for example.
Right.
If they want to get with the times and they want to remain a solvent, business into the future, why they need to get on this bandwagon lickety split.
It's just proof that they're not used to actually having to compete.
No, not at all. And to answer your question, Bonnie, why they didn't do this a decade ago? Well, number one, their government, they're slow. But number two, a decade ago, no one took Bitcoin seriously. Not even,
They still don't take it seriously.
Well, I disagree with you there. I mean,
outside of raiding and, throwing people in jail, I guess they take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely taking it seriously now. The fact that they're considering doing this it's an indicator that Bitcoin's a real competitor, that cryptocurrency is something they consider to be worth talking about and worth doing something about. Now, of course, it's going to take them some time to roll this thing out, but that's a whole other story. So, though the effort is much narrower, which is to say the Facebook thing, it demonstrated how the private sector could, in theory, create a massive currency system outside of government control, which, of course, is not true because as you pointed out, Captain, corporations are government controlled. Look, when you ask for a corporate status, you're asking for it from the government. You don't just when you go into business, you're not a corporation by default. You're just a person or a group of people who's gone into business to provide a product or service. You're offering a thing to the marketplace. People incorporate because, well, they're expected to do so, or they think it's going to confer some benefits like limited liability and things like that. And when they incorporate, they're asking the government, they're begging for a privilege.
It is another form of licensing.
That's all it is. You're asking them for a privilege. And when you ask for a privilege, you have to do things. And that is to say you have to be obedient. So the idea that it's outside of government control, what Facebook's doing, is ridiculous. In fact, the reason why Facebook failed is because they announced this in advance. And it gave the opportunity for the government to call them in and have testimony. And they called in Mark Zuckerberg and they're like, what are you doing? How can you compete with our dollar? You're a bad man. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, we won't do it this way. Well, they were originally, remember, they were going to put a bunch of basket full of different currencies from around the world, government currencies, put them in a quote unquote basket, and then take whatever the average or price, some sort of figure out a price from that for this thing that they were going to create. Yeah. Well, then after the government got a hold of them and said, what are you doing? Facebook said, oh, well, we won't do that. We'll just do a dollar-based thing.
And then they didn't.
Well, they're still supposedly coming out with it. So
I've heard nothing about it.
I saw something the other day.
To me, it sounds like what happened is the government shook their baton in Facebook's general direction, and Facebook went, "Oh, don't."
And
hit
they
me.
stepped too. They absolutely did.
They flinched.
Yeah, now central banks around the world have begun exploring the idea of issuing their own digital currencies, a fiat version of a cryptocurrency. It's not a cryptocurrency. The reason why it's not a cryptocurrency is because they have total control over it. It will not be cryptographically secure. It will be under their authority, in which case, if they want to repossess every single digital dollar that's in quote-unquote your wallet, they will, because it's actually their wallet with your name on it.
And who's to say that that's not true, considering the fact that they do that with bank accounts all the time?
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
This will be a government bank. The Federal Reserve will finally offer individual accounts. Because right now, the Federal Reserve interacts with banks. It's sort of the banker's bank, right? And so
ooh, that's going to piss off the banks.
That's why they're pissed off.
Yay. Wow.
So let's continue, because there's more to say about this. And they are also, not only are they trying to compete with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but they're also trying to compete with other countries around the world. Other central banks are already a year ahead of them on developing this idea. 202-380-3699 is our number if you are interested in this, or bring up whatever you want. You can comment on Free Talk Live.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey.
Who do you think you are?
Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today. This is...
You ain't going to make it.
Wait on account. Now. Wait a minute.
Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me?
Because you scared me.
What
am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. Local.bitcoin.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number here, 202-380-3699. That is a phone number where you can call us and talk about whatever is on your mind. 202-380-3699. And it's the live Sunday edition of the program here as we continue with the news about the federal digital dollar, where the Federal Reserve is currently talking about starting their own, what they want you to believe is a cryptocurrency. It's not.
Will the banks call for separation of money and state?
Oh, I doubt the banks will do anything of the sort. They will beg and plead the federal government to not do this, which is what they're already doing. The American Bankers Association is saying the government should not implement a central bank digital currency, that they say it could be dangerous. The consequences could be severe.
Or could this be the first signs of sort of the wedge that this technology will drive in the bureaucracy, right? And I say that to say, let's say the federal government is planning on having like this federal crypto wallet or digital wallet for your federal currencies. What's to stop the banks from doing the same thing and creating a competition between the Federal Reserve and the regular banks, right? The non-Federal Reserve.
What would that look like?
I don't know, but it's an interesting thing to think about.
Would the banks be making their own stable coin?
Or how about just creating their own wallet? Bank wallet, right? Chase wallet, Bank of America wallet, right? Whatever that is, right?
God, imagine how terrible those would be. I mean, these websites, bank websites, are just some of the worst websites out there. They have all kinds of money, but their websites are they look like they're stuck in the year 2003.
Well, that's because everything's moved to apps, but their apps aren't any better either.
No, they're garbage. So I don't think that the banks are going to get all of a sudden more competitive just because the government is introducing a digital currency. But what you probably will see is this is my speculation.
Sure.
If the federal government moves forward with this, the banks obviously aren't going to go out of business the next day. So they will try and they'll try to hang on with all their dear might and try to offer a free toaster or whatever if you go open up an account with them, or whatever the reason, they're going to try to get you to stay with them. But let's get back into the story here. They're talking about how because of cryptocurrency, because now Facebook a couple of years ago announced this thing that they called Libra. It's apparently been renamed to Diem. They're apparently going to launch it later this year.
We've learned that Diem means day.
That's right. And so that was one of the things that led them to start looking at this seriously. I imagine it was also the fact that the Chinese government is rolling one of these things out. Now, I don't know where they're at. I haven't been following it closely.
That makes me smile. The folks can't hear my smile. But this means that we're beginning to see governments become competitive entities. And if governments become competitive entities, that is a win for regular folks, for AKA citizens, right? I don't like using that word, but people who fall under the realm of governments. This is a win for them. If governments compete, that means they're one step closer to becoming service agencies. And in order for them to remain competitive, they're going to have to figure out how to provide the cheapest goods or products or services that governments claim monopoly on amongst each other. And that bodes well for the rest of humanity.
I don't disagree with you in theory there, but I'll say
it's just a start. It's a little seed.
Right. I mean, the fact that there's now a digital, or not yet, but the fact that there might be a digital dollar at some point from the Federal Reserve isn't really a meaningful, change for anyone.
No, but it's the competition. Like you said, China has the head start, and now other countries are oh my gosh, China! We better get on this bandwagon, right? So this is the beginning of what I envision to be competition between governments to provide the best, least expensive products and services.
But it's still just trash. I mean, the it'll always be the digital dollar will always be trash, just like the regular dollar is. It'll be inflated. beyond belief, just like the regular dollar is. And so it's just another tool for them to screw people. So let's be clear with that. Central banks are now exploring these ideas of their own digital currencies, a fiat version of a cryptocurrency, which is false. It is not going to be cryptographically sound or secure, that will operate more like physical cash, that would have some of the same technological benefits as other cryptocurrencies. I don't think that whoever wrote this article for Politico knows what they're talking about, because a digital dollar run by the Federal Reserve, a Federal Reserve wallet in which these digital dollars are quote unquote held. Remember, you don't have them. They do. It's you would have a database entry in their database with an amount in it, which means it's absolutely nothing like physical cash. The only thing that makes it like physical cash is that it's called the dollar.
Right.
Physical cash you can physically hold, and you could put it somewhere where they can't get it.
Guess what physical cash has that this digital dollar won't have? Privacy.
That's an important point.
Right? Like I can go on Craigslist and find, a guitar or something I want to buy. Yeah. And if I have enough FRNs, Federal Reserve notes, dollars, to go buy the guitar, I could go buy the guitar and nobody knows how much I spent. If it's
Except for the seller.
Except for the seller. If it's the digital dollar, though, you bet your babushka that the government knows exactly how much I spent.
All on the record.
Yeah.
And that's what these people want. And that's why, despite what the banks are going to say, likely the future is that they're going to move in this direction because it gives them more control. And that's what they want. I mean, they have plenty of control through the banks, through the credit card companies. They have plenty of tracing on a ton of money that moves around. But this puts it all into their system.
It's going to be a failing concept because they're not going to be able to compete with cryptocurrency, decentralized cryptocurrency.
They won't.
They won't. And if they try, they will fail. And the more that they fail, the more that they will realize that they have to either adopt a decentralized currency or make their currency decentralized themselves.
That would provide, back to the story here from Politico, unwelcome competition for banks by giving depositors another safe place. No, it's not going to be safe. Not if they want you. They are going to take every single digital dollar from your account and place it in their central holdings. Just like they can take money out of your bank accounts today by walking in with a letter. Now they don't even have to send a letter.
Right,
with this, they'll just hit the button. A person or business could keep their digital dollars in a virtual, quote, wallet, unquote, and then transfer them directly to someone else without needing to use a bank account. Remember, you won't be transferring them to the other person. You're only going to be moving them within the ledger that the federal government will be running. So the other person doesn't have any claim on these things. Again, everybody just has an account with the government. Even if the wallet were operated by a bank, the firm wouldn't be able to lend out the cash. But unlike other crypto assets, it would be, like Bitcoin, it would be directly backed and controlled by the central bank. There's no backing. So again, that's a lie. But it will be controlled by the central bank. That much is true, allowing the monetary authorities to use it like any other form of the dollar in its policies to guide interest rates. The Federal Reserve Bank of Boston and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Digital Currency Initiative are aiming next month to publish the first stage of their work to determine whether a federal virtual currency would work on a practical level, an open source license for the most basic piece of infrastructure around creating and moving digital dollars. Let's be clear. Whatever they're saying is open source here. Maybe they're having a competition as far as who can write some code for them.
I want to say something to listener land, anybody who's listening to this show. If you take anything away from tonight's program, take away this, that there is a huge difference between a digital currency and a decentralized cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
What the U.S. government in this article is talking about is not a cryptocurrency.
And it's not decentralized.
It is not decentralized. So huge difference. It's not a cryptocurrency. It's a digital currency that they're talking about creating.
Yes. And that they would control completely.
And there's a bunch of conspiracy theories surrounding the World Bank and all the governments have been wanting to eliminate cash for some time and get everybody on a digital world currency, et cetera, and so on. And people speculate that Bitcoin is that. No, it's not. Because if it were, the governments wouldn't be trying to do this. The governments are so far behind the curve that a decade after cryptocurrency was invented, they're just now coming around to the idea, oh, well, maybe we should have some sort of digital cash.
It will be likely up to Congress, says Politico, to ultimately decide whether the central bank should formally pursue such a project, as Fed Chair Jerome Powell has acknowledged. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are intrigued, particularly as they eye China's efforts to build their own central bank digital currency, as well as the global rise of cryptocurrencies, both of which could diminish the dollar's influence. And indeed, why would anyone who knows what cryptocurrencies are and the potential that they have and the tremendous rise in value they've seen over the last 12 years, why would anyone want to put in their money into government bonds, when they can buy cryptocurrencies, including other governments? And as we saw within the last week, El Salvador, I believe, passed the law
to be implemented in the next month or two
that says that Bitcoin is now legal tender in El Salvador. Now, it's alongside of the dollar, from what I understand. But for that level of, governmental acknowledgement of cryptocurrency is unprecedented, and it may be the beginning of an avalanche of, monkey see, monkey do action with other countries filing on. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tropical Depression Claudette kills at least 12 people in Alabama. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. The storm continuing to hammer parts of the southeast. Fox's Jonathan Seary in East Bruton, Alabama.
Authorities report no fatalities here, but in Tuscaloosa County, a 24-year-old man and 3-year-old boy were killed when a tree fell on their home. And in Baldwin County, authorities say rain-slick roads led to a crash. One of the vehicles was transporting children enrolled in the Tallapoosa County Girls Ranch program. Those girls among those who perished in the crash.
Tropical storm warnings and watches are in place for South and North Carolina through Tuesday morning. Iran has a new president.
Conservative Judge Ibrahim Raisi received 62% of the vote amid uniquely low turnout in the Islamic Republic. We do know Raisi spoke shortly after the results were in.
I'd like to offer my gratitude to the very dear, honorable, and vigilant people. I thank the Almighty God for the dear people's trust in this serving seminary student. I hope I can respond well to the people's confidence, votes, and kindness during my term.
Raisi also discussed his support of the 2015 nuclear deal, but only under terms laid out by Iran's supreme leader.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Jerusalem. A man wanted in 3 Oregon deaths is under arrest in Wisconsin. Fox's Rob Dawson.
Investigators say Owen Nicholson turned himself into police, but they aren't saying how he ended up more than 2,000 miles away from the crime scenes. Nicholson is suspected of killing his father and 2 other people at a casino campground in a spree Friday. It happened in the small town of North Bend, population less than 10,000. Police Chief Robert Kappelman was emotional.
The work for these families that have been affected by this, that work can't be done without the support from all around.
America's listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
$1 trillion versus $6 trillion. Congressional wrangling continues over a bipartisan infrastructure bill. 21 senators, 11 Republicans, 10 Democrats looking for a solution.
There is a healthy debate right now within the Democratic Party. There's a healthy debate between Democrats and Republicans about the nature of the policy and how to pay for it. But we are not going to let them run down the clock. We are going to pass an infrastructure bill, and it's going to command the support of the American people in both parties.
Congressman Jake Auchincloss on Fox News Live. New York City is electing a new mayor. The primary is Tuesday. Early voting already underway. Fox's Aisha Hasni.
New York City, has a lot of issues, but crime is at the forefront for a lot of voters as they choose their mayoral nominee. Nearly every single crime category is up across the city. The overall crime index for May, 22% higher than last May. Former NYPD captain and Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams is among the top tier of the candidates. Early favorite Andrew Yang has fallen behind.
New York City is using ranked choice voting for the first time. Voters can choose up to 5 candidates, ranking them in order of preference. A criminal mystery is solved in New England.
A series of vehicle break-ins had residents and police in Thornton, New Hampshire wondering who was responsible. But with the help of some security video, the bandit was eventually identified and captured. He was found to be...
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
A dead iPod is remembered as expensive. It's the Onion Radio News. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Despite heroic efforts at resuscitation, a third-generation 30-gigabyte iPod, serial number AP356372, was pronounced dead early this morning at the age of 2. The iPod's closest companion, Sarah Zartman, says she'll never forget the great music it used to play, nor will she forget the nearly $500 price tag.
I'll remember those 3,500 songs as long as I live. That iPod was convenient, portable, and really pricey.
Zartman added that had she known the iPod's lithium-ion battery would have such a short lifespan, she might have spent more time listening to it. AP356372 is survived by a BlackBerry. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It's
Free Talk Live and open phones as always, inviting you to join us here on the live Sunday edition of the program. The number's 202-380-3699. That's 202-380-3699. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And the captain.
And Bonnie, you had to step away, which is why you disappeared for a short bit there. You were called by our co-host, Nobody.
I was on official church business.
Yes. Nobody calls from jail. It's nice to have the ability to pick up the phone no matter what time it is, so you had to step away for that. So
Nobody was talking to none. Wait. Is that, yeah, okay. Yeah,
the peace nun.
The peace nun.
All right, so we were talking about this Federal Reserve discussion at this point. They're investigating the idea of a central bank digital currency, not a cryptocurrency, which is, of course, how the mainstream media, Politico.com in this particular case, continues to mislabel what it is that they're doing. They are inspired by cryptocurrency to actually do something new, inspired by the fact that other central banks, like the Chinese central bank, are creating their own centrally controlled digital currency.
Yeah, they're sitting back going, we'll just make our own and force everybody to use it.
Yeah, they're inspired by the fact that crypto can completely eliminate them.
Exactly. And they want to do something, but, they're governments, so they're slow and they're plotting and they're awful. And I'm sure this is going to be just terrible. It's the dollar, so it has to be terrible. It's designed for them to rape you financially.
Some of the cryptocurrency providers currently and the wallet providers, new technology, some of them are skating by on, bootstrap type budgets. And so their response time for support sometimes is lacking. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine how poor the support would
government
be
support.
For government wallet.
I mean, banks are terrible, right? Like banks are pretty awful.
Yeah.
This will be worse. Like this is the equivalent of going to central healthcare, right? Like centralized one-payer, single-payer healthcare, going from a highly government-controlled, crappy system that we currently have to an even worse government-controlled system. Same exact thing, except with your money.
That's funny because that was the first thing I thought of is like having to call the healthcare people, and it seems like the people you call don't even know what they're talking about. Like seriously, it seems like they're hardly trained. I don't see how the government's suddenly going to get a whole bunch of people that they can train and explain cryptocurrency to very well. That's just not going to happen.
Well, they don't have to explain cryptocurrency because they're not doing cryptocurrency.
Well,
What they're going to be doing, if this thing comes to fruition, is they will have government wallet app. There will be some sort of government app that they will put out. God knows how long it'll take, how many bugs the thing will have. But there will be some sort of Federal Reserve. They'll come up with some cutesy name for it or whatever, and then they will inspire through either forcing people or incentivizing them. They'll likely start with incentives, like the next giveaway, the next COVID bailout package or whatever. Your check won't be a check to the banks anymore. It'll be, if you want it, you've got to download their app. So then what they won't have to explain cryptocurrency because they would never be able to do that.
Well, like a new system.
But that's what they'll have to do is they'll have to explain to people how this app is supposed to work and why it's not working the way they think it's supposed to work and why it's broken and it'll be broken. Trust me.
I've said similar things about firearms, right? Like if the government really cared about protecting you, they would almost make it mandatory for you to have or start giving away guns to its citizenry, right? And I was just thinking, if Independence Day is coming up, and a lot of people like to celebrate, quote, freedom, unquote, on that day. We won't be broadcasting live. We'll have a recorded show on that day. But with that coming up, and if you think that your government cares about your freedom at all, if government really did care about your freedom, they would have some sort of incentive program for everybody to have a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency miner in their house of some type, because it is the most freeing technology possibly ever.
Government.
It's funny because I was thinking, like, what could be the cutesy name they give this new cash? And I was like, Care Cash. And then I was like, oh, wait, they already did that in 2020 Clown World. That was literally
COVID
the CARES
package.
Act.
Yeah. Yep.
So bad.
No, they'll call it like Freedom
Care.
Coin or something.
It'll be something stupid.
It'll be dumb.
Democrats have been especially skeptical. This is Politico.com about the central bank digital currency, about crypto assets, because there are fewer consumer protections and the currencies can be used for illicit activity.
Just like the dollar.
Just like the dollar. Yeah, in fact, the dollar is used for illicit activity way more than cryptocurrencies are. There are also environmental concerns posed by the sheer amount of electricity used to unlock new units of digital currencies like Bitcoin, which of course ignores the fact that the sheer amount of electricity used to run the banking system and all the bank branches and all their server farms and all that crap.
Not to mention all the pollution caused by government. Largest polluter on planet Earth.
Having to drive into the banks every time you can't do anything over the phone.
But this is something that... And wait in the lines at the bank drive-thrus. You ever
in the AC?
Did you do that during COVID? Yeah. Wait in bank lines.
I know a lot of the mask things have been being lifted. In that.
What about the banks?
Can you still go into the bank with a mask?
Oh, I went into 2 banks recently because I had to change stuff with my account, and neither one of them did I wear a mask. But they had signs that said, "Our fully vaccinated members can still or don't have to wear a mask anymore," and they're not going to ask me, so. Just didn't wear a mask.
This whole electricity objection, though, to cryptocurrencies,
crap.
It's a shot in the dark. They're so desperate to try to badmouth cryptocurrencies, especially amongst the left, because if you think about it, like crypto benefits everybody. It's politically agnostic. It doesn't matter whether you're on the right or the left or you're libertarian or whoever you are, whatever your belief systems. Cryptocurrency transfers the power of money to the individual, and people on the left should appreciate that as well. They should appreciate getting away from monopolies on money and big corporations on money and putting that value into the hands of people again.
They're supposed to be all for the people.
Right. It truly is the people's money.
It really is.
It really is.
The cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, right? Decentralized cryptocurrency is money for the people. Something like Libra or Diem. This is corporate
money,
corporate crypto, corporate currency.
That's the Facebook one,
right?
You're talking about.
Right, and then like now we see state coin. Right, is what we're talking about here. State coin is going to be invented, and none of them have all of the features and benefits that Bitcoin has.
Legitimate money. This is what Warren, what is she, senator or something like that, Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. She suggested the Fed project could resolve some of those concerns. Quote, legitimate digital public money could help drive out bogus digital private money while improving financial inclusion, efficiency, and the safety of our financial system. If that digital public money is well designed and efficiently executed, which of course it won't be.
First of all, name something well designed and efficiently executed
by the government,
by an organization known as government.
Attacking people with bombs.
Not even that efficient, though. I mean, if you think about it.
Nor well designed.
Yeah, I mean, they get it done. You know, they have enough money. If they throw enough money at a thing, in this
or enough
case,
bombs,
bombing. So, and remember, private companies design the bombs, right? So they're just buying the bombs from companies that actually, I guess, are competing to build the best bombs. So there's still some element of market competition in there.
Wow, so not even that.
But government doesn't do it efficiently. In fact, remember, I think it was Silver Dave, who used to be on the show on occasion as a co-host, former Green Beret, I believe it was.
Special Forces guy.
Special Forces. He used to talk about how every year one of their assignments was to go and take just like pallets full of ammunition and blow it all away.
Oh my
just
God.
Keep loading up magazine after magazine after magazine into machine guns. They'd have to put the guns down because they get too hot, right? Yep. Like you can't fire a gun for too long, or else you can't touch it anymore. So they'd cycle through guns and cycle through all this ammo, and the reason was because they needed to blow up all the ammo so they could then have more on the budget for next year.
Right.
There was also all this, when my dad was in the military, he was always complaining that they would get issued all these uniforms and stuff, and so much of it would be totally fine, but they were told they had to turn it in to be discarded.
So they could
and
get new
could
ones.
not keep it. They had to get new ones. And he would always be like, I'm not going to say my dad did it, but his friends and stuff, they'd kind of keep some of the t-shirts around the house because why throw it away?
Oh yeah, same thing's true with office furniture, and there's a whole ton of waste when it comes to the military. So we'll continue here. The number is 202-380-3699. That's 202-380-3699. I just love how she calls cryptocurrencies bogus digital private money. They're scared, man. These government
teenager
goons,
insult.
Good.
They are scared. There's more coming up. You can join us. What do you think about the government digital currency? Is it going to happen? It's Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us, 202-380-3699. That's 202-380-3699. The federal government wants you to believe they can actually innovate something. That they'll be able to create something that everybody will actually want to use.
The government has nothing. The government makes nothing. All the government does is take stuff from other people. That's it. That's what they do.
These are not innovators. if they were innovators, they'd do it in the marketplace, and they wouldn't, force it down your throat through a monopoly status, which is what the government is.
But then they couldn't force it down your throat through a monopoly status.
That's right, and that's what they're into. They're really into forcing things down your throat. I mean, yes, they are psychopaths and sociopaths, and they love telling you what to do.
Like, I know a lot of our listeners are like, "Oh, you guys just hate the government."
I don't hate. I feel pity for them.
Well, I do too. But what I want to point out to these people is there's only one organization type that exists in violation of consent.
Mm-hmm.
It's only one. And it's government. It's the only one.
Well, criminal gangs in general, and they're the biggest, most successful criminal gang out there.
Okay.
I mean, if a criminal enterprise comes into your store and says, "Hey, you better pay up or we're going to bust this place up," okay, that's not consensual.
Agreed. Yeah. But this claims to be a legitimate organization type.
The government says the exact same thing to you, except they also say, "Well, you voted for us," even though you didn't.
On the
or
thing
might not have.
The White House thing that they put out like yesterday that you guys covered yesterday, they were saying
what was that?
It was the domestic terrorism new.
Oh, right, yeah.
That.
The counterterrorism
Snitch
plot.
on your neighbors, snitch on your friends, that kind of thing.
It was a 43-page thing, so I don't know if you guys read this page, but it was explaining like different types of people that might be terrorists, in like your friends that might be terrorists. And one of them was like, if you hear people talking about government, perceived government illegitimacy. So I was like, oh, literally me on the show. All the time.
Literally the whole show, every single co-host, almost every caller. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here. In fact, we have David. He's on the line in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, speaking of psychopaths and sociopaths, in honor of Father's Day and hearing of two whistleblowers at the State of New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department. In honor of that, let me blow the whistle. Sticking strictly to verifiable facts found in court documentation, should anybody question me. So Father's Day. It's Father's Day today. And the last time I saw my two kids was July 2nd of 2007. I said goodbye to them, not knowing I'd never see them again, and I never saw them again. Thank you very much, State of New Mexico. Now, the whistleblowing that you're being heard tonight in New Mexico out of Farmington on KENN, so let's perk those ears up. And you're also being heard on Sunday nights, not on Saturday, but on Sundays on KIVA in Albuquerque, Eddie Aragon Station. And so what happened here in a nutshell is custody case or a divorce with children custody case, and the state was not involved. It was a private issue with private attorneys. But there was an order saying that I was not having access to my children. I appealed that. In fact, they terminated my parental rights and adopted my children to a stepfather. I appealed that decision of Judge M. Monica Zamora. Judge M. Monica Zamora wrote that illegal order. I appealed that to the New Mexico Court of Appeals. I hold in public record a unanimous 3-judge panel decision in my favor, Wexler, Bustamante, and Kennedy, written by Wexler, saying that Judge M. Monica Zamora illegally trafficked my children, and they vacated that and reversed it. And it went back, it was remanded back to the lower children's court, where the presiding judge was now Judge John J. Romero Jr. And John J. Romero Jr. never did any one thing, nor did the court-appointed attorney ever do anything to attempt to reunite me with my children, even though I protested to the verge of arrest.
How long has it been since that judge had the thing and hasn't done anything? How long? What period of time has passed?
Many years. It's been 4 and 5 years. Many years.
Okay. And
so I'd like to finish up by saying this. And so, one, what happened over at CYFD is in violating whistleblowers, retaliating against whistleblowers is a violation of federal law. And should any retaliation come my way, that's also a violation of federal law. And lastly, Judge M. Monica Zamora, let me tell you the result of and Judge John J. Romero Jr., more directly, the result of your work resulted in this. the step-parent that has been living, or the stepfather that has been living with my children for the last dozen years or so, is now out of their life in my children's teenage years because he assaulted and battered their mother, attempted to rape their mother, and when he came home drunk one night, then battered my son. This is all in court record, and he's now out of their life, which means the bond between myself and my children is severed and probably will not be repaired.
But the case is technically still open?
Yes.
Wow.
And the bond between the stepfather and my children, whom the court, Zamora and Romero collectively thought was a better person to be around my biological children than I.
So, David, let me see if I'm following this situation here. You had this lower-level judge take your kids from you, give them completely away to the woman in this particular case, and then you appealed it. You won at the appeals court level with a unanimous decision. They remanded it back down to the court, which then it got into the hands of this other lower-level judge. This was several years ago, and this judge has just sat on it. I presume you've made a ton of motions between now and then. Does he answer them? What is the last communication you've received from the court in this case?
Yeah, I did all of the above and above and beyond. I did everything possible for years and years, and to hitting a complete literal block wall, a literal block wall with to no avail. And that's where it stands.
But what does he say? Like, what does he say when you say, motion to actually, call a hearing so I can have access to my kids, which is what this appeals court said you were supposed to do?
He just ignores it.
Wow.
So you get no response at all?
Yeah, I get no response at all. But when I do it myself, which I did when I was left unlawfully, unlawfully for a period of months without a court-appointed attorney. When I did some things myself, those were ignored. And then when the court attorney was present once prior to that and after that, the court-appointed attorneys did nothing despite my.
So hold on,
demand.
Judges aren't obligated to respond to a motion within a certain time frame in New Mexico?
They get away without. It's called failure to rule.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to rule, but they don't always rule. Often they will fail to rule.
Can you appeal a failure to rule?
You can, and I have, and I've appealed twice. The very first appeal that I wrote, I lost, and one of the issues was failure to rule in the court.
Just the continuous frustrations from these courts.
And remember, this is family court too. They don't have the same rules as other courts.
Good point. David, thanks for the call, and sorry to hear about the continuing horrors.
Good luck, man.
You're not the only one out there in that situation, and it's just terrible. There's more on the way. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Oh, yeah, it is Free Talk Live.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 202-380-3699. Was that your James Hetfield?
Yeah.
Hey,
Whoa, whoa.
Free Talk Live.
Thank you for calling.
202-380-3699.
I maintain that James Hetfield stole most of his shtick from James Brown.
Oh, yeah. Just metalized it.
Gonna kiss myself. Yeah.
It's Ian Bonnie and Captain Kickass here in the studio. The phones are open. You can bring up anything. If it's a depressing story about Father's Day, that's fine. We'll take it. But we've been talking about something that is, I think it's going to happen.
Oh, it's
I
gonna
think they're
happen.
going to do this.
Yeah, they are going to do it.
The federal government proposing and investigating creating what is being called in the industry a CBDC, or central bank digital currency.
CBDC.
It's not a cryptocurrency, although the mainstream media is easily confused, and they're going to start saying that it's the federal government's version of a cryptocurrency. No,
it's nothing like ACDC.
No, and it doesn't rock, and it is no fun, and it's going to be ugly and awful, and I guarantee you, because it's a centrally controlled government program that's going to have an app.
It may, however, be a highway to hell.
Think about how bad bank account or bank websites are. They're bad.
Yeah.
There's very, very rare that you'll find a bank website that's like, hey, this is pretty good. I mean, there are a few of them out there, but that's because the banks do have some competition amongst them.
My credit union website is okay. Their app
Some
is
of them
better.
are okay.
But compared to like I had a bank before the credit union, it's night and day. The credit union is far better.
Now think about government websites.
No thanks.
Government websites that you've been on.
Marketplace, Obamacare Marketplace. Oh my God.
Have you
it's
ever been on that site?
Yeah,
I've heard they're terrible.
I've had it. I've had
Oh,
Obamacare, and it was so confusing and complicated. I got some that looked really cool for $50 a month, and I was like, okay, cool. I have health insurance now for $50 a month. All of a sudden, after like 2 months, it started saying it was about to bill me $250.
Oh, there
and
was
I
like an introductory rate or something like that?
I like called them, and after, all the figuring out what the heck was going on, like passing me around to different agents or whatever, they were just like, oh, it seems like there was some information on your stuff that just couldn't be confirmed. What? I already paid for 2 months. What? And it was just like, yeah, so unfortunately, it's
This
just
is your
going to
new
be
price.
Yeah, like what the heck? So yeah, I just canceled it and don't have health insurance.
A lot of people had nightmarish experiences with those websites. I heard about them. It was a big deal because they were forced to use them, threatened. If you don't go here, then we're going to fine you or whatever. But think about government websites. They're terrible. Overall, they're just absolutely awful. Now imagine that for money. The government's going to create a government, or they're talking about at least. They're experimenting with a digital dollar, and they're being incentivized to do this because, well, China looks like they're going to beat them to the punch, number one. Number two, cryptocurrencies are a thing, and they're now acknowledging them. Before, they just ignored them. Now they can't ignore them. Yep. Now they feel like they got to compete. So we're looking at Politico.com, which gets into this quite a bit. It's an interesting story, even though it's obviously taking the government side here and the sort of editorial perspective. They say that senators highlighted the potential for central bank digital wallets to be used to, here you go, deliver government aid more directly to people who don't have bank accounts. So the check that they sent for the COVID bailouts last year, the $1,200, and then what was it, like $600 later or something?
$14
Yeah, and then another one came later, and all those were, some people had those direct deposited into bank accounts. Now they will just go straight into your government account.
Well, they did give these weird debit cards too. So
for people that didn't have bank accounts, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not. So I could tell you that I got a stimmy. The first one I got was a check, and I just okay, fine, I'll go cash a check.
Right.
The second and third one that I got were both on two different debit cards, and I had
with like a Visa logo on it.
Yeah. I had to jump through many hoops to activate them, and this kind of a thing. And then, in order to get the full cash value without being charged for taking cash out or other
fees,
various fees, I could only go to approved ATM. So there's like a government website you go to that's sponsored by whomever this provider is of these debit cards, and it turns out there's only like two in between my house and here. There's only two machines that I could go to. One of them was out of order, and then the other one had a limit of like $200. So I had to go to this one cash machine repeatedly on many days just to get the full cash value without any penalties being taken out of these debit cards. Whereas I'm sure other people didn't. They just went to like their bank or whatever, put the card in and blah, blah, blah. Or they called and were like, yeah, could you transfer this to my bank account? And they were like, sure. And then they got charged some sort of fee. So they never got the full value of these things.
Wow. So what you're saying is if you didn't want some of it taken away, you had to give the government free labor.
Correct.
You had to waste your time.
Yes.
Now, from that perspective, Captain, this would benefit you. Because if the money just went into a government account that you already had access to, boom, there it is.
I know, I was already thinking maybe they purposely made that stuff so inconvenient so that way they could sell this easier.
I don't want a government account of any kind.
I know. But people are going to want them when they find out there's $1,000 waiting for them.
I literally went out of my way to make sure that I was able to redeem the full cash value without depositing it into my personal checking account, without
I see what you're saying,
all that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
but you're unusual, right? Because
I'm an unusual dude. It's true.
like a lot of us, you don't value the idea of the government at all, and we want to get away from that. But for the average person, $1,000 might make the difference between paying the rent and buying some nice food at the grocery store or whatever,
feeding your kids or whatever. I get it.
Right. So the government's going to say, hey, look, here's your handout. It's $1,000, $2,000. It's $2,000 now. They'll make it attractive, right? Just like they're trying to make the vaccines attractive by giving people free beer and lottery tickets.
The new thing they implemented for if you have the kids and you get the continued stimulus.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. If you know what I'm talking about, right? So they implemented some new extension of this thing, but it's only if you have kids. If you have kids, then you automatically get, I don't know, it's like $200 or $300 a month per kid.
Okay.
And so these people are still continuing to get this as a result of the COVID thing, right?
Or like the unemployment.
It starts next month. Angie was telling me about this. She said she could qualify for like almost $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, they give you a whole bunch of money every month for each kid that you have as a result of whatever the bill they pass for the stimulus package, and so they're going to automatically convert these people from whatever method they're using to deliver into this new method if it continues to go.
Still, there are a slew of... Oh, one other thing. Neha Narula, who's leading the effort at MIT to work with the Boston Fed Bank on the central bank digital currency, called the project, quote, a once-in-a-century opportunity to redesign the dollar, unquote, in a way that supports innovation, much like the internet did. They claim the digital dollar could be designed to have more high-tech benefits of some cryptocurrencies, like facilitating smart contracts, where a transaction is completed once certain conditions are met. I suspect that won't be anywhere near as exciting or interesting as the things that they're doing with Ethereum smart contracts.
What'll happen is that, first of all, smart contracts aren't smart contracts. They're dumb programs.
They're programs.
They're programs. They're like, if this, then that, right?
That's right.
And so what'll happen with the government digital currency is that it will be one-sided in favor of the government. If you don't provide us all of this information, then you will not receive your money.
So with this next paragraph, it brings in a new question to mind for me that I've not considered here. There are a slew of unanswered policy questions around how a digital dollar would be designed, such as how people would get access to the money or how much information the government would be able to see about individual transactions. We know the answers to all those already. They're going to require you to download their wallet because there's no cash associated with this. You don't get to cash this out. This is digital only. And they have total access to all the transactions. That's the whole point of this. It's total control, no anonymity. But it makes me wonder, since it's legal tender, will they mandate all businesses accept it? And if so, what will that entail for business owners as far as, what kind of systems are they going to need? What kind of hoops are they going to have to jump through in order to do this? 202-380-3699. You can join the program here. This is Free Talk Live. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. Most of you know me as a talk show host, but I'm also an author, actor, single father of 4, a fitness writer, avid snowboarder, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. Like many of the million people who are living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every single day. And sometimes my nerves are so raw that if you brushed up against me in an elevator, I'd scream. I can't sleep at night from the pain, and sometimes the spasms in my legs are so intense they will wake me up throughout the night. I've tried the strongest prescription medications available, and I'm going to tell you, they do not work. In fact, they leave me in a stupor, and most of the time, it's impossible to even live your life. Now, I've tried medical marijuana, and I'm going to tell you something, it works. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
The final countdown. I miss karaoke.
Me too.
202-380-3699. You can bring up anything you want in the remaining moments of this program. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
It's Bonnie.
The Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass is also here.
And we could do karaoke here, but Ian's all worried about the neighbors.
No, I'm not worried about that. Just, it's just weird doing karaoke on your front porch or something like that, but it could be done.
Not with a bunch of people. It'd be so fun. We just need to plan better. I wanted to do it for my birthday, but I thought of the idea like a few days before, so.
Makes me think of Tom, T-Bone Stankus and the Front Porch Rockers.
Is that a band?
It is, yeah. They their most famous songs are the Existential Blues and the Existential Blues Part 2.
Cool. Check them out. 202-380-3699. We will take your calls here in these remaining moments as we continue. Don't forget, you can help AMP Free Talk Live. The AMP program allows you to get behind what we do here and help us get Free Talk Live onto more radio stations around the country, bring new internet listeners on board with the show. And I do want to say thank you to one of our amplifiers, Eric Haley, who is a gold amplifier, also Paza, who is a silver amplifier. Thank you guys for helping support Free Talk Live. You know what? While I'm at it, Robert Womack, I forgot him earlier this week. He is a silver. These are all different levels. Silver's $5 a month. Gold's $10. You can do whatever level's appropriate for you. We ask for $5 a month, and you get some perks. You get some bennies for doing this over at amp.freetalklive.com. amp.freetalklive.com. Another great website feature, social.freetalklive.com. You can interact with some of the hosts of the show. You can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners. It is a new site. We just rolled it out earlier this year, and it's growing slowly. I've been having to nail some spam accounts that have been trying to take over.
Thank you for
recently.
taking out the trash, by the way.
Yes, I did. And you can go to social.freetalklive.com. You want to get off those big tech websites like Facebook? This is a great alternative where you actually have way more freedom to express yourself on social.freetalklive.com. Really, we don't care what your beliefs are. So come on by, check it out. There are very few rules by comparison at social.freetalklive.com.
Unless your beliefs are spam.
Yeah, no spam.
I was reading a different article. I don't think I have it for show prep, but it was... with all the new laws being passed and all of the, what do we call it, cancel culture going on, that somewhere around 2/3 of the United States are afraid to express their true feelings about topics.
Frightening.
About social topics, political topics.
You're just talking about people, not just college students, right?
Whatever the survey was revealed that somewhere around 2/3 of people are afraid to express their opinions on stuff, right?
Wow. So that's where we are
So
today.
guess what that means? That means they lie. They lie about stuff when asked about it. They lie. So
like the cowards who put on masks because they were afraid of what their neighbors would think during COVID.
So regarding Free Talk Live, if you share our opinions and, you're otherwise afraid to, share yours, if you agree with any of the stuff that we are, well, we're an avenue with which you can support if you agree with, the opinions and the perspective of freedom and peace and, prosperity for humanity.
I used to be, I wouldn't say afraid, but just like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, if any kind of political thing comes up around my friends, I'm just gonna act like I just don't follow or care about. I mean, I didn't really follow or care. Like, I just stopped caring because what was the point? So if I did have an opinion about something someone was saying, I'd just be like, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna like teach them. It doesn't really matter for a while. But then I moved here, and you don't feel so alone and just like, what's the point?
That's a good point.
Yep.
When you're around people who understand.
People should consider moving up here. We're going to see a record-setting Porcupine Freedom Festival over the next week. You're going to hear a lot about that starting tomorrow, presuming things go okay and there's not like a tremendous rainstorm and we got to take over for Monday night. Because if Aria shows up on the campground and she can't even like plug things in, then you may hear another live show on Monday night. But we're going to have a whole 2 weeks of broadcast coming out of Rogers Campground with thousands of people. They're expecting approximately 3,000 attendees to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is nearly twice what their previous record was, which I think it was 1,700 was their biggest year prior to this. So this is huge, and it's been like 6 or 7 years since they've had that peak year.
That's like a band selling out a really big club.
It's gonna be amazing. So I've thought a little further on this too now about the central bank digital currency that we've been talking about quite a bit here tonight.
Lay it on me, brother.
And I'm really disturbed by the potential here. So again, we were talking about some of these unanswered questions. What is it going to mean if they come out with this government-run central bank dollar? Because remember, we talked about how there are quote-unquote digital dollars in the form of credit card money and money and loans from banks and bank accounts and things like that. There's lots of quote-unquote digital dollars, but this would be an official federal government digital form of money that could not be exchanged, presumably, into physical dollars.
Right.
Okay. So that's one of the big differences. The other big difference would be that the federal government would be the ones providing the wallets for these things, not the banks.
Which means an app you have to download on your phone.
Which means an app you have to download. And my question was, since the dollar is a legal or what was the hell's the word?
Legal tender?
Legal tender. Thank you. Legal tender, which generally means that everyone is forced to accept it for payments of debts, public and private.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that means you have to accept it at your store is, kind of a muddy area. I've read that you don't have to, like that in theory you could open up a store and say, we're only taking cryptocurrency.
Yeah, we don't take cash. We'll take everything else.
But here's the thing. If you are taking the dollar at your store, and most stores do, you're not obligated to take credit cards because that's a bank product.
True.
You're not obligated to take checks. That's a bank product.
Right.
They represent dollars, but it's offered by the banks.
Right.
To take a credit card, you have to go through their process of onboarding. You've got to open up a bank account,
a merchant account,
a gateway, payment gateway, and there's a whole hassle and hoop jumping. You can say no to that. The bankers are trying to get you to take it because they get 3% off of every transaction. So, of course, they want you to sign up for their system, but you're not obligated to. But if you're taking the U.S. dollar, will you be obligated to take the digital dollar?
And will they take a cut?
I don't know about that. I wouldn't expect so. That may be one of the things they pitch to people as far as why.
If they implemented it successfully,
mm-hmm.
And they wanted to institute some sort of a federal tax on something, they could do it.
But the whole thing
instantaneously.
is the tax. The whole dollar is the tax. The increase, as we talked about earlier, the inflation of the money supply. They want to get people's hands on this digital dollar wallet. So I don't think that you're going to see, at least not up front, maybe later.
Oh,
they
right.
will,
That's
but-
what I mean. On
yeah.
down the road, if they wanted to, I don't know, federal tax on whatever, let's say cigarettes.
They just haircut
right?
you,
Right?
you.
They want to, so every time you have a pack of cigarettes and something you buy with your government digital wallet, it just automatically gets taxed.
That could happen.
Wow.
Yeah. So this brings some really concerning
pretty
questions.
scary.
If you're running a little shop and you're taking dollars, is the federal government going to be able to force you to accept people paying with the digital dollar? I think they might be able to.
You should start accepting cryptocurrencies at your little business.
It's not too late. In
Immediately.
fact, the folks over at AnyPay can help you with that. So be sure you check those guys out. They're great.
Anypay.com.
Is that? I think it was AnyPayX.
Oh, yeah, anypayx.com?
Yeah, I think that was their current. I think that was their most recent website.
Or is it anypay.x?
No, I think
No,
it's
AnyPayX, I believe is-
anypayx.com. So there are some big questions here, and the decision is tied, according to Politico, to a far more controversial policy supported by Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and a Senate banking chairman, Sherrod Brown, to give regular Americans accounts at the Federal Reserve. Quote, what problem is a central bank digital currency trying to solve? In other words, do we need one? It's not clear yet to me that we do. This according to another senator who's a Republican from Pennsylvania.
We don't.
He said, in my view, turning the Fed into a retail bank is a terrible idea. He said further, quote, the fact that China is creating a digital currency doesn't mean it's inevitable the yuan would displace the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, he said. For their part, the banks, who are against this, because remember, if people start moving into this digital dollar, and there's no fees to accept the digital dollar, what are the banks going to do about that?
Yeah.
They fear a Fed-issued digital currency could make it easier for customers to pull out large amounts of deposits and convert them to digital dollars during a crisis. If the virtual equivalent of a bank run...
Imagine the bank run.
If the virtual equivalent of a bank run, putting financial stress on their institutions and making less money available to provide credit for people, or it would be a virtual equivalent of a bank run, it could potentially deprive them of customers, they say, something the lenders say would interfere with lawmakers' vision of increased financial inclusion. So this is a little spat that the government's going to have with the banks here very, very soon.
Good.
And
It's about time
they
they didn't get along or work together on something.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this develop. All the while, cryptocurrencies are going to be developing and becoming better and faster and cheaper to use. So keep your eyes open. We'll be doing that here, and we'll let you know what happens at Free Talk Live. See you tomorrow, freetalklive.com.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Dangerous heat is no deterrent for migrants. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. Triple-digit temperatures or not, a record number of migrants continue to arrive. Fox's Bill Malugin is in La Jolla, Texas.
It's getting more dangerous, but these human smugglers out there, they don't care about those temperatures. They're taking advantage of the migrants, and they are ruthless in some of the things that they are doing. 15 migrants who had been locked inside of a moving train by human smugglers. They were inside of grain hoppers. It was 110 degrees inside of those grain hoppers.
The Biden administration under criticism for its lack of action. Florida sending law enforcement help to Texas and Arizona after governors there requested assistance. At least 12 people are dead in Alabama because of tropical depression Claudette. 10 died in a vehicle pileup due to wet roads, 9 of them children. A man and a toddler died when a tree fell on their house. Fox's Jonathan Seary is in East Bruton, Alabama, where tornadoes were a problem.
We spoke with one resident, Joe Stouch, who was driving through the neighborhood when things started to get bad quickly. He said that tree limbs started falling down on the road. He had to drive around them, and moments later he found himself pulling 2 neighbors from their destroyed mobile home. They were among 3 residents taken to the hospital for injuries. Authorities report no fatalities here.
Tropical storm warnings and watches now in place for both South and North Carolina. It's time for summer camp, but will there be space? Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis.
Well, you better hurry because the spots are going fast.
When we got the green light that camps were going to open, like the end of January, there was like an explosion and the floodgates just opened up. I think we did a year worth of recruiting in 4 months.
This high demand is a welcome change from last year.
Willis reports about 26 million eager campers, but not enough counselors to handle the surge. America's listening to Fox News.
When you're running a business, when is it convenient to go to the post office? On your lunch break? At the end of the day? Saturday? How about never? Join the nearly 1 million businesses using Stamps.com. Get discounts up to 40% off post office rates and now up to 66% off UPS shipping rates. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, and enter code FOX for a 4-week trial, plus free postage and an easy-to-use digital scale. Sign up at Stamps.com, click the microphone, and enter code FOX. That's Stamps.com, code FOX.
Still looking for bipartisan agreement on infrastructure. Fox's Rich Edson with the latest.
The White House says President Biden will make this a priority when he returns to Washington next week. Negotiations with Democrats and Republicans on an infrastructure proposal. There is that bipartisan group of senators. They're working on about $1 trillion proposal. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, is part of that group. He says the group will release its framework by Wednesday, the latest. As Republicans say, a deal is ready to go if the White House is willing. And Republicans are negotiating with Democrats, and Democrats are negotiating also with other Democrats. A number of progressive Democrats say that $1 trillion bill just isn't enough. They say that they need to add on to more to that. They're discussing around $6 trillion.
There's a push by some Democrats to use budget reconciliation, meaning no Republican support required. New rules are coming for commercial space travel.
A lot of regulations are still unwritten that would apply to commercial space travel, and that makes some people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos uneasy because the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, tells me new rules could be coming to outer space.
They're going to have to meet the same rigorous physical and psychological examination for any other professional astronaut.
Congress is also looking to work with NASA, the Department of Defense, and the Space Force on crafting these rules.
Fox Business Network's Hillary Vaughn. Exactly how NASA will regulate space travel is unclear. And it was a sold-out crowd in Nashville for the Ally 400 NASCAR Cup race.
Overheating was an issue. He fixed the overheating problem. He has managed the fuel problem, and he's going to make it 3 wins in a row. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Call courtesy of NBCSN. Ross Chastain takes second. William Bryan is third. I'm Ann Carrick, and this is Fox News.
Here's some breaking news that is very good for your business. Indeed now offers you everything you need in one place. Get instantly matched with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description. Then, schedule and interview top picks all in your Indeed dashboard. Indeed is the job site that makes hiring as easy as 1, 2, 3. Post, screen, and interview, all on Indeed. Get your quality shortlist of candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description faster, and schedule and complete video interviews in your Indeed dashboard. Indeed makes connecting with and hiring the right talent fast and easy.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence is next, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
For another Tyranny Report with Dr. Frank Tambury. Oh, yeah, we got him, live. We're live now. This is being recorded to play tomorrow, the next day, when we'll schedule it in. But I tell you, right now on LRN is playing a show that I've been trying to get on this whole freaking week, and it's coding problem. Anyway, it got fixed. So it was Dr. Huber that Dr. Frank Tambury hooked me up with, and it was a good show going on. Right in the middle of it, all of a sudden it went dead, and it was because the studio thought it was dead air, and we were recording it. It was fine, and they pushed a button. And I'm like, all right, we gotta fix this thing. I know a lot of the people, get entertained with all of the, run around with our hair on fire trying to make everything a live show. It's a live show. That's why I keep trying to convince Donna it's a live show. There is no later. It's right freaking now, So now with the not a live show, maybe we can chill a little bit. So what we're going to do is we don't have the annoyance of commercial interruption. I mean, it's kind of fun. We got to go to break and come back and so on. But it's we do music and everything. But I get to play with that now, and I get to do some editing. So a 3-hour show edits down to 2 hours anyway. So if I do a 2-hour show, then I get to do an hour of editing. We can get creative and have some fun. So we're going to try that. And we may go back to the live show after we get off the road. But, with Love Bus and internet connection the way it is and so on, this is working out better. And for Dr. Frank and I, it's like a continuous after show, which we do a lot. So this is, it's going to be fun. So, Frank, now what we may do is we need to take a break, which is not a big deal here. I can just edit it together. But because his father's visiting and they're getting ready to pack, go to the airport and everything going on. I know your dad. How's he doing?
Oh, he's doing good. It's been a little transition. Like many people, they're leaving blue states for red states. Now, my dad has been he's been in here in Arizona back in the 70s and 80s. That's how I have such an affinity for Arizona myself. But he's been in Pennsylvania the last 20 something years, 30 years. And I'm sorry, Pennsylvania has been there the last 20, 30 years. And he's just fed up with it. He's fed up with all the changes and the towns around him and the taxes and the crime. You got the Philadelphia issue. Now he lives out in the boonies outside of Philadelphia, but with all the changes happening in these blue states, he's done. One of the problems he had was he wanted to sell his house and come out here. Thing is, he had this beautiful house, a prepper house. We even tried to advertise with prepper groups because it was all self-contained. I mean, it had it was hardly any energy bills, everything. I mean, you had the hot water was almost nothing. You had salt. The whole house was solar. You had the window panes are like triple pane for insulation. You had all this land. I mean, everything custom made because the guy's an engineer. And he couldn't find anyone that would be willing to pay it. And we're talking dropping prices because nobody who was a prepper, people understood the problems of the world, why they would want that house, wanted to move to that area, to Pennsylvania. Do you see my point? In other words, everyone who could appreciate what that house was and what it represented were leaving the whole state. So that was the crazy thing. So we have pieces of crap homes in Arizona that were going for like twice the money, and you have beautiful homes like that a prepper would love that he couldn't even get offers on because everyone's leaving Pennsylvania. So that's been the big issue overall, the kind of more the meta that affects all of us, the people listening to the show. So finally, he was able to sell it, not exactly of what he wanted. But came out here, and we have our certain properties out here, and I think turning the corner here as far as getting out of that world, and I think he's getting happier just being out here. And we'll have to talk off the air about some of the areas in which we're in, and hopefully maybe Ernie and Donna will be a neighbor sometime soon. We also have a patient, one of my patients, and he and his daughter are expert chicken wranglers. Like they have the gourmet chickens and the French special chicken and this and that. So they're going to be coming up and helping us do the whole chicken thing and all the details. And we've got the water on, and we have electricity, and anyway, it's a process, which I'm sure that many of you out there know. It's an ongoing process, but you have to just take your time, and you have to enjoy it at the same time. But that's the deal. And he's going back, and he'll be back in a few weeks.
Okay. I want to share this with you, and it'll play tomorrow. The interview that I did with James Corbett last night. And it was probably one of the biggest revelations that I've had ever. I mean, the great enlightenment. And I want to share it with you, and I'm sure it'll make a lot of sense. But I want this to be the basis of our conversation today, because there's a lot of news going on and everything, and it's all manipulation and 30 years of doing this, and I finally got the game plan, and it's just so simple. But I needed to fill in a piece. I'm going to tell you the story. You ready?
Sure.
Yesterday, in preparation for the show, I was listening to some of Corbett's stuff. He does other interviews, and he has new material and so on. And I was kind of going through that. And I only was in a couple of minutes of a show he did with another young man that, I don't know, some, regular interview that he does. And they mentioned a show, they were referencing a show he did 7 years ago in 2014, about China. And it's CorbettReport.com/China. And if you watch that document, it kind of goes into, things that it kind of dovetails into a bunch of other stuff that he does, because he's always these particular groups of people since the 1800s have, dusted off the Illuminati control people book of whatever the hell, and it's all a psyop thing. How it's Machiavelli, how to rule people kind of thing. And this has been crafted over the millennia to just, herd the cattle and the people, they're all the same thing. You got to have some livestock to take care of your livestock for you. So this is kind of the background. I understood that, and I could, understand that. But what role does Russia, China, Europe, the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, who's in charge? Which one is competing against whom? How is that working? Now, if their preference, of course, was to be the one top guy in charge of everything, well, that's kind of been the dollar. And then they, Klaus Schwab comes out and says, yeah, the dollar has had its reign, and, it's unfair and it needs to go away. We need to have, GoldmanSucks.gov coin or something. So all this stuff is playing out. And then I heard reference to a thing that, because of what's going on in the South China Sea, we're almost at war with everybody all the time. And I'm going, yeah, and aliens. I'm going, man, they're going to have to pull the aliens out of their butt sooner or later. They get everybody together. They're building up to that. I can feel it, and I'm going, okay. And they referenced the show that he did, and I remember listening to that a long time ago, and I'm going, yeah, there was, some good stuff. So I just stopped that podcast, and went to his documentary on China. Then it all started to make sense with one little thing. It was an hour, 17 minutes. I made it like 38 minutes through, and then I had to do the show with James. But this is what the epiphany that happened. In China, they had Yale in China. Yale